Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Podcast. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood Zach Stat Pearson, batteries not included. And today, I'm joined by he whose sword cuts deep into the franchise of Devil May Cry with criticism, a one Rydad.
Thank you very much for introducing me today by my Discord name. It's actually Rydad, coming from, Raiden and all that. It's a name I love to play around with a lot on Discord. I don't know what it is. Raiden's like one of my favorite characters. He's from Metal Gear Rising. My name is Rydude, or Zestis, or Zesty, if that name's not butchered, or Mustafa, my original name, or Extreme GamePlays, which is my YouTube channel. So thank you very much for having me today, Mr. Zax. I'm really thankful to be here.
And I still only got the one name. Well, why don't you tell the people of this fine YouTube channel a little bit about your channel and where they can find you.
So, my channel, Extreme Gameplays, is a channel where I play games in. It's mostly nowadays just challenge runs for games, mostly God of War, and it's mostly it's focused on action games. So, I play action games, I do challenge runs in them. Again, as I said, mostly God of War. I do dive into Devil May Cry here and there, Metal Gear Rising with chill streams and all that. But it is mostly a God of War focused channel. Even the videos, like I make entertaining videos, comparison videos, in-depth combat guides, and that's all I'm about. Basically, action games enthusiast. Extreme Gameplays.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, with that being said, as if you weren't surprised because of the title of this video, audience, let me first start this off by saying, yes, we will be talking about DMC, but we're specifically talking about this glorious of action games, not character action, because that is not a thing, and it's an illogical genre title. We will be engaging in a critique of it, as well as potentialities we'd like to see in future installments, in particular, Devil May Cry 6. So, if you're looking for people who want to sing its praises and tell you that everything is perfect and hunky-dory, you've come to the wrong channel. You might want to go maybe mess with Foxcade or Gaming Brick. Not that I hate them. I've often admitted that I am annoyed that apparently the popularity of the term character action seems to begin and end with those two, but that's as far as any aggravation with them in my personal life goes. But no, we will be acknowledging faults. For those of you who saw my Devil May Cry franchise versus Bayonetta video, you will know that I had to remove biases. And since it wasn't hard to do because I've never viewed the Devil May Cry series as perfect nor the Bayonetta series as perfect, I was almost overqualified for it. And even then, I still spent 5 to 6 months having third parties look over my stuff to make sure I don't look like I'm trying to play favorites. So with that being said, we're going to go directly into those questions. Rydad will be answering everything first, just so you guys know. And with that being said, number one, which character do you want to see return as playable in Devil May Cry 6?
Okay, so for this one, it's going to be a pretty vanilla kind of answer for which character I want to return in Devil May Cry 6. You said that it has to be from like any other Devil May Cry before, or generally in Devil May Cry franchise. To that, I'm going to have to say yes, Vergil, which as you may know, it's a very easy answer to give. He's been in mostly every Devil May Cry ever since Devil May Cry 3, as a playable. So I want Vergil, but in a different kind of approach. The approach DMC Devil May Cry took. Yes, the reboot in 2013. So that game at least gave you a Vergil that has his own story, his own arc. It's totally a campaign made around him. You're not playing, Dante's story as Vergil or whatnot. It's not a trick that developers put on you like Devil May Cry 3 does with its cutscenes and all that, and then it's just basically Dante's, campaign. That's pretty much what I want.
Plus a red Vergil.
Yeah.
Oh man, that shit is still.
Yes. So I basically want him, and mostly what I want in a Devil May Cry 6 is again Dante and Vergil's story. It's not over for me. I still want it to be them, be it a prequel or sequel. I don't know, just split it between the two. I have more to say about multiple playable characters in Devil May Cry, but for now, let's just keep it at that. I want Vergil to return, a proper return in the DMC canon that we have right now. That's all that I can say.
Meaning not DLC.
Yeah.
All right. So in my case, it's gonna have some honorable mentions. So for a lot of people in North America, it's not common knowledge, but there are reading materials that are prequels, sequels, or just give a novelization detailing to the Devil May Cry universe, so to speak. In the case of Devil May Cry 1, there is a prequel and sequel book. The prequel one we all are more aware of. The graphic novel was canceled because, well, the owner of that company was just a piece of shit. Like he let what was essentially a license to print money slip through his hands, and it's a little bit depressing. But the main thing is that there are some people who are, I would like to consider, for lack of a better term, unsung heroes. What I mean by that is there are characters who Dante knows, they're acknowledged as canon, but they have not transitioned into the gaming form of media. Now, when it comes to the Devil May Cry, one guy who stands out the most to me is the Devil May Cry, what they call drama CD. Now, in that CD, which was what the, what is it called? That thing, the stage play, the Devil May Cry stage play was based off of this drama CD, if memory serves. Now, there are two of them, one being a generic murder mystery, and the other one being when Dante has to go over to Egypt to potentially stop a threat. He meets an Egyptian demon hunter. Now, I can't particularly remember this Egyptian demon hunter's name, and the stage play, at least the videos that I found from it, which I'm not going to put on screen because, you know, the video will probably be taken down, is all in Japanese. There's no English transcription. So, you know, if you guys come across it, you come across it. But yes, there was at some point in time a Devil May Cry stage play. I want to see that main Egyptian devil hunter return in some way, shape, or form. Okay? That guy was the coolest shit ever. And believe me when I tell you, I want to do that. Now, the first audio drama, you know, is more along the lines of, you know, relating to the animated show. Like, they even used the exact cast from the animated show. But the animated show, as we know, last I checked, technically is canon, but the way the characters are drawn and how they appear makes you think that it happens before Devil May Cry, after Devil May Cry 1. But because of Dante's design, people think that this is somehow before Devil May Cry 2, when they say it could be anywhere. And also, it's not even acknowledged in any official works anymore. But also, at the same time, J.D. Morrison is a problem.
Because of how he looks?
Reminder, J.D. Yes, and before people make some assumption, J.D. Morrison had an ethnicity change that was unexplained, and it got even more weird when it was discovered that his voice actor likes to do his own imitated brand of minstrel shows on YouTube. So yeah.
I see.
We're not going to go into him, because if there ever was a bitch that I would love to slap, we'd be here all day talking about him. Like, there's no excuse for his ignorance. He's an old man. He knows better. He doesn't even have the stereotypical excuse was, I'm not young enough to know what a minstrel show is. Doesn't that have to do with periods? Like, no. So I'm just not, because I'm going to go some places. I will go some places. Okay. So, and in the second audio drama, he went to a Devil's Neverland, or at least the story was themed after a Devil's Neverland. Patty shows up again. I think Capcom's been trying to hint that Patty's going to become a future devil hunter, which, fuck that whole entire concept. I don't know why Patty is even being considered anything relating to important. Legitimately, go get the guy from the stage play, the Egyptian guy. I can't remember the character's name.
The Egyptian guy.
Yeah. And outside of him, I've been saying this for the longest time. Why is Trish only playable in even-numbered Devil May Cry games? That makes literally no sense to me.
You would bring this up only for the gameplay part. So this is quite interesting.
Yeah. So Trish is one of the most unique characters in the game, not just because theoretically she can actually fly.
Yeah.
But because in and of itself, oh, and for those of you wondering, I don't mean the Sengoku Basara Devil May Cry stage play, which I don't even know how the fuck that even got greenlit. The one that was Japan only is called Devil May Cry, The Live Hacker.
I see.
Technically, it's more like a musical stage play, but hey, look, stage play. Stage play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I want to see that particular Devil Hunter. I think his name was either Gideon or Liam, or his name translates to Gideon or Liam. You know how weird it is. It's an entire show that's done by 100% Japanese cast, and it's done in Japan, but almost every character's name is in English, but you can't really pronounce their names the correct way. And then for some reason, somebody's character looks more lavish or outlandish, even though they're supposed to be realistic, than fucking Dante. Gideon looks like he's supposed to be a rock star, not any type of devil hunter, but adapt them or convert them to be able to fit into the Devil May Cry universe. Give them a unique ability besides, ooh, I got a big sword too. That shit gets annoying after a while.
Right.
And Trish. And of course, Lucia, because Lucia didn't deserve what she got. She was one of the hottest characters. Up in that point in my life, I had almost never seen a beautiful tan-skinned woman in a video game, with the exception of maybe somebody drawing a really, really fancy Street Fighter character. And she just looked beautiful. And first off, we'd almost never seen any women in CG in general. And here comes Lucia looking like a damn model.
You can't fathom the volume of cum in that era.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the concept of 3D porn. Don't get me wrong. I am not a connoisseur of 3D porn, but I remember when it was new.
I see.
Because people came to school and said, hey, 3D porn exists now. I'm just like, okay. I'm like, what the fuck you want me to do with that information?
It's interesting that you tapped into so many characters, and I only tapped into the most vanilla answer, which is Vergil.
Well, you have an excuse because he's never in the main game. It's fucking annoying. He's always, let's put a price on him. What can we get for a Vergil in 2019, 2018? Oh, I know. We'll get $4.99. Yeah, they gonna pay that $4.99 for some Vergil.
And we did. The thing is, next to Vergil, if there was ever a character I'd choose, which is again very close, it's probably Sparta, just to see what he goes through in a very, very prequel story. Beyond these two, I really can't think of any other. You've clearly played a lot of Trish, so you speak so passionately about her gameplay and all that. It's interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I just oh, Trish is playable again. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. She's only playable in even number games. Well, let me go play Trish. Then I played Trish, and I was like, why the fuck am I forced to play Lady?
I see.
Why I gotta wait till I get the chapter select. No, get rid of Lady. Oh, not really, because I know she got a big fan base. But no, Trish's shit is just too fun. Her kid is too fun. Dante over here randomly doing Ryu and Ken techniques. Trish over here randomly doing Chun-Li moves, and I'm here for it. But that's the primary two. I really want them to maintain being playable. Trish, Lucia, and Gideon, I think is his name. I'll put an image of his flamboyantly, I look like I go to a glam rock band.
I've heard people say Gideon sometimes. Is that the same name, or is it just pronounced differently?
Yeah, you know how it is. Somehow some English-speaking countries change the G to a J and the TH to an F. So those countries are going to say it wrong. Yes, you are in fact saying it wrong. Don't take it personally. I'm just stating a fact. It's not that deep. But his name is in fact Gideon. So yeah, I will give you an image of him too, but you'll see what I mean when I say looks like some type of Japanese flamboyant rock star shit.
Giddy.
I believe that's the Devil Hunter's name. Oh man, that is. I'm wondering if that's gonna age gracefully or poorly. But yeah, here's a link to what he looks like.
Okay.
So yeah, going past that though, I can't say Vergil because everyone's answer is Vergil, and I am not gonna lie, me too. But Trish and Lucia and Gideon are the ones I want to see the most return, just because they keep making them. They get better. Devil May Cry characters with the exception of Dante, who's in this weird time machine situation, they get better over time, except Nero. Fuck Nero. So if you compare Devil May Cry 2 Trish to Devil May Cry 4 Trish, you will notice, no pun intended, that they are as different as night and day, despite being the same character. So imagine what a Devil May Cry 6 Trish or a Devil May Cry 2 Trish going into a Devil May Cry 2 Lucia going into a Devil May Cry 6 Lucia would control.
Like simply, like if she was in Devil May Cry 5, that would have been the most insane Trish ever.
You know, I know a lot of people don't realize she's the only by default dual wielding character in the entire franchise when it comes to close range weapons. She's the only one.
I see.
So, yeah. So that's my main thing. Now moving into question 2. So for question 2, what are some changes you would like to see happen with the stage design and environment design of Devil May Cry 6?
So like this question is generally stage design and like the combat stages and how they work and the general level designs. That's the question, right?
Yeah, environment and level design.
So first, if I want to ever separate the two, first one is going to be about the combat talk and all that. The one thing I want to really critique about Devil May Cry 5's combat, moment-to-moment combat, and the stage design that has some involvement in it, is that it's very vanilla way of approaching encounters or stage design and all that. Like, for example, as a point of reference, which is a lot of Devil May Cry fans, hell, 99% of Devil May Cry fans hate, would be DMC Devil May Cry. That game does some really awesome stage hazards, traps.
And that's the only thing everyone loves about it.
I swear there's a lot more to it, but for now we're just talking about the stage design and all that. Devil May Cry have dived into stage hazards, traps that damage you and all that, but that's where it ends. They only damage you. They very rarely damage the enemy as well. Like in Devil May Cry 5 has some segments where you fight some nobodies with Nero and there are some spikes and maybe you can lure them into there and all that. Or something we're going to talk about in a minute, the explosive red barrels that you can shoot.
Yep.
That's the extent of stage interactivity. The stages are not, dynamic. And here's the one thing that is truly tragic. Of all the games, of all the Devil May Cry's you could have done that in, it would have been the perfect game to do that in Devil May Cry 5. With smooth, buttery controls, with the most, refined formula of Devil May Cry, I'd say. I don't know how they didn't get experimental with the stages. I don't know why the stages are just this simplistic, flat area that you fight in. As I said, it does kind of change it up a bit sometimes here and there with, higher platforms and all that. But it's way too rare when compared to the average playstyle that you have. Average, encounter stage design that you have. So that is truly one thing that I'm gonna have to say. Devil May Cry 4 had it, 3 had it, but those only damaged you. And in Devil May Cry 5 is the same. If it's there, it only damages you. Rarely does it damage the enemy as well. DMC Devil May Cry has a speeding train level where you can throw enemies in front of it and it just obliterates the enemy literally. Or there's a whole spinning wheel thingy and you can launch enemies towards it and the enemy gets vaporized instantly. Stuff like this I truly love in combat. I think some people dislike it and they only want the safe zone to be in Devil May Cry, where they want to only fight the enemy one-on-one, the stage is clear. But trust me, gimmicky stages and awesome stages go a long way making a combat good. Besides that, if we're going to get into the second point of talking about what the question is, the stage design and all that, the overall level design of Devil May Cry 5, as I'm sure a lot of people also agree, is very lazy. It's either lazy or they ran out of budget. They burned their entire budget with the first couple of missions with Nero. The whole Qliphoth, man, the amount of the long time that you're in the Qliphoth, these red interiors and all that, I'm not gonna say they look bad. They just get way too repetitive because you just have them all the way throughout half of the game. At the start of the game, it's fine. You're inside the Qliphoth, you're as Nero, it's claustrophobic, it's atmospheric, it's scary, it's dark. There's a lot of light coming from the gate where Urizen is sitting on his throne and all that. Dante is fighting Urizen, you're in a hurry. It's very atmospheric, very amazing and beautiful. But generally, you later get into the city with Nero, you play some with V as well in that city, you play with Dante in Mission 11 in that city, and some in Mission 12 as well. But overall, the game slaps you inside of the Qliphoth again, and the setting just stays like that, and it gets so annoying just seeing the same colors again and again. again, reaching near the end where you're outside the Glyphoth and it's white and all that. That is a beautiful change, but it's still very lazy. It's not that deep or anything. The other main thing that I can truly, it's just a personal taste of mine, and it's something that I want back for Devil May Cry 6, as the question recommends. It says, what do you want back to Devil May Cry 6? The Gothic level design. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty easy. It's an easy thing to say. The Gothic level design from Devil May Cry 1 through 4 is something that I truly, truly value. Like the way these buildings look, everything, the floor and how it looks, little statues and how they look. And especially with Devil May Cry 1, a huge part of the atmosphere is the Gothic art design, the Gothic art style approach. I freaking love it so much. Devil May Cry 3 understood the assignment and followed suit. Devil May Cry 4 kind of lowered it down, I believe, but like, it's still there. The Gothic feel is still there when you look at the architecture in these Devil May Cry games. Devil May Cry 5 went with a whole new approach of it being so, I don't know, I would say cartoonishly optimistic, but I don't really want to say that all the time, but like, I really want the Gothic design to be back for Devil May Cry 6. The Gothic design just all the way for Devil May Cry 6. That's all that I have to say about the level design or the stage design and encounters for Devil May Cry 5. That's what I critique in Devil May Cry 5. That's what I want, upgraded for Devil May Cry 6. That's about it.
Well, let me just first start off by giving my answer and saying, Gothic means many things. For most people, it's just what you put in your porn search history. But for some people, goth means Gothic is both an acknowledgement of an ancient ethnicity as well as an actual story format.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon. It is, well, it's become very rare in North America, but in many other places, they are aware that Gothic is a style of storytelling that was popular, I believe, from like the 1700s to 1800s. In particular, one of the most prolific titles in that type of storytelling is Dante's Inferno, which is like half of the inspiration for the entire Devil May Cry series. For the uninitiated, it's Cobra, the animated series, mixed with Dante's Inferno. Lady, aka Mary, comes from Cobra, whereas Dante and Vergil come from Dante's Inferno.
I see.
So, yeah. So, essentially, Gothic storytelling is a story that features some form of family-related trauma in the form of murdering a biological relative, doing something that you shouldn't do with biological relatives, or someone trying to escape from something involving something you shouldn't do with your biological relatives. If you can't figure out what I mean by that, then you're too young to be watching this video and you're too innocent to be watching this video.
Should I make a joke? Have you heard the...
Probably, but you might be better off just putting up a GIF.
Okay, whatever. I'm not going to make that joke. I heard it somewhere.
Yeah, because, YouTube feel how it feels. So, essentially, what I want to let people know is that goth as a term goes very deep. It's not just, ooh, pretty girl you put in your favorite search engine. Let's just say that. There is the architectural aesthetics, which is what Rydad mentioned. Wonder where he got that from. And there's also the ethnic group from ancient times, a few hundred years back, as well as, as well as the storytelling format, which Dante's Inferno is. They briefly touched on that in 3. But I want to see interactable stage elements and interactable combat elements in the environment. And yes, I am offended by that red barrel bullshit they did on the first stage, no, the second stage for fucking Nero. That shit pissed me off. Even when I'm up to the boss, I just remember thinking, I know they didn't just put some explosive ass red barrel bullshit up in this game. How the fuck did they even get there? We were technically in a subway station. Who just keeps exploding barrels of gasoline at a fucking train station?
It's a lazy insert, definitely.
Bro, and oh shit, they brought back the enemy from Devil May Cry 1 that could go through walls and scissors and shit. Man, that would be so cool if I could stop thinking about these bullshit ass red barrels. I just wouldn't stop. I was that offended.
So
But at the same time, my brain was like, you know, it would be cool if they did. And then I just filled in so many blanks in my head. Why can't they have Dante fight on a train? And if Dante fights on a train, if you do stinger or certain techniques in the right direction, boom, they go flying out the fucking side window. Why can't they have it? Yeah. Why can't they have it to where if Dante is fighting in a hallway and there's lights in the top of the stage, if Dante does high time and he starts shooting them, they'll also get electrocuted because they created an electrical circuit and they take more damage or they're temporarily stunned. Like, there's so many small things that they could have done instead of a goddamn exploding red
that electrical thing you mentioned. So basically, like Batman Arkham Knight, where he man horses someone against the wall, and we assume he's alive.
Yeah, on a fucking surge protector. No, that motherfucker's dead. There was smoke coming out. I'm sorry, Rockstar, y'all fucked that up. He straight up killed people. I would love something like that. Or if there's a pillar or support in an area that's already got destroyed, why don't I hit this one pillar and half of a building falls on some big enemy? You know, you ain't got to make it kill them. You could just make it temporarily stun them. Like, there's so many options. The closest you got to a true environmental hazard is Devil May Cry 4. That fucking bullshit ass worm that pulls you into this underground space, which they got the idea from Devil May Cry 1, obviously, when you fight that nightmare boss at random. But that is the closest outside of, giant spikes that come out of the ground in Devil May Cry 3 in like 4 or 5 different areas.
That's the saddest thing. Of all the games that could have had this, Devil May Cry 5 would have been the perfect game to have that. Like, these buttery smooth controls deserve to have an interactive stage. You can't mess up with Devil May Cry 5's controls when you get good enough. Like, it's understandable why they're not there from maybe 4.
Devil May Cry 3.
But yeah, go ahead, 3.
Devil May Cry 3. When you get in a 10-minute group and you find out, oh shit, this thing has a steering system, and depending on where you change it, you turn on or turn off stage hazards. You get in that gear room and you don't have Trickster leveled up, because I'm not gonna lie, let's be honest, almost nobody levels Trickster first because you don't know what you're missing until you get it. So your first playthrough, you ain't air dashing, you ain't teleporting. You go in that room, you gonna want to punch the dick off of whoever made that room. Yeah, that was a smart way to do environmental dangers and hazards. You had a room that randomly brought out some type of slicing shit that no one still to this day knows what the fuck it even is. You had these things on the wall that didn't move, but then now that you turned it a certain way, now they're on the ground and they're rotating stupidly fast, and some of the enemies can get hit by them too. And I'm just sitting up here like, oh, well, when they make 4, they're definitely going to do something similar to that. Oh no, we got one stage where you go in one room where there's a giant puzzle dice on the ground like you're playing a fucking board game in hopscotch. And then you go and fight a boss, and the boss, I shit you not, is a goddamn glass window. To this day, people still think I'm lying that I haven't played Devil May Cry when I tell them, well, what is the dumbest boss you've seen? A fucking glass window was a boss. No, it wasn't. It was like, no, it seriously was. Now, number 3.
Just before we move on to number 3.
What changes?
In number 2, there's also the overall level design. What do you want that to happen with Devil May Cry 6? Do you want it to be back like the Gothic design or something else, or...
No, for 6, I want them to do what they somewhat started, and I stress the term somewhat started with 5, which is going through different parts of an entire country's aesthetic and architecture design. Usually they're just in European cities. Let's not lie this. They're on that European city bullshit. Dante flew in, Lady flew in, because they basically imply that everybody except for Nero lives in America now. But it's not really confirmed. But Dante doesn't live in his home country. We know that. His home country is some unnamed place in Europe. So Dante, Red Grave City in some unknown country in Europe. But Dante only seems to end up in a destroyed or apocalyptic version of a major city. But when we get to 6, we start actually seeing evidence of, people. Yeah. Not just, here's a school bus crashed with magically no corpses.
You want the population.
Also, and what the fuck was that school bus doing going anywhere near a damn strip club? That one still blows my mind. As far as 3, what changes would you like to see happen with the combat of any character or in general in the next installment?
With the combat, what do I want changed in Devil May Cry 6? Or I'm gonna talk about this broadly, okay? So I'm not gonna talk about, hey, the character needs to have this. Maybe I will get into that a little bit, but First and foremost, my biggest issue with Devil May Cry 5, the enemies. Now, when I say the enemies are easy, I'm not just gonna say they're easy and then just move on. I explained it in the DMC Fans Ruined Action Games video, how you can take an enemy to the air and camp up there without the camera switching by enemies, without any, gravity going on, without an air escape by the enemy. The enemies are just simply...
Good old-fashioned Marvel vs. Capcom
yes,
logic.
The enemies are not compensating for how powerful the characters you're playing as, are. Especially Dante. You just... Like, Dante is too powerful for the enemies in Devil May Cry 5. DMC 5 Dante should have been in DMC 4. That way you would have some enemies that actually go against how powerful and complex he is. Devil May Cry 5 enemies all get stunned so easily with Cerberus. They just all get stunned. Even the Impusa Queen, even the grunts. That's what's weird about it. Even the guts that you fight in the, that one Angelo. And speaking of Angelos, they all got downgraded from what we had in Devil May Cry 4. In Devil May Cry 4, look at their formation. Then watch their formation in Devil May Cry 5. Night and day. Literal night and day. Devil May...
It's funny you should mention that, because the knights, the Nello Knight bullshits in Devil May Cry 4 have a white and a light aesthetic, whereas the ones in 5 have a dark aesthetic to them. It's funny you should mention that. But yeah, you are right.
Generally, the main problem I have with the enemies is that they don't have air escapes. They get way too easy in the air. Even on the ground, if I'm being honest. On the ground, you have some enemies that have armor, correct? Like you have some spinning enemies. You have these dinosaur weird enemies with weird teeth and whatnot. You have some enemies that have armor as they're attacking you. Maybe you're fighting the fat thickies with the, with the axes and whatnot. These enemies and their strong points all get bypassed when you use your snatch with Nero. Like, for example, some enemy has an armor on the ground, you don't know how to get him in the air. Just double jump and snatch him up to the air. It's kind of the same with Dante's snatch as well. Dante also has a snatch, lovely thing, with Faust. But it just destroys the enemies whenever you do it. It just instantly snatches them towards you without much difficulty. The enemies are just not as strong as the characters. Not even half as strong. The game is trying to be you combo styling, combo matting around the enemies, and it's trying to make everyone Donguri, basically, which was supposed to be something very hard. Look at what happens when you launch an enemy way too high up in Devil May Cry 4. How the camera sometimes switches to a lower point of view to make things at least a little bit harder. This is not even me talking about the gravity slowly pulling the enemies down. It's not even talking about the enemies literally having... 90% of the enemies have air escapes. This is not even me talking about the hard jump cancels. They're very hard to do. The jump cancels are not so easy to do like Devil May Cry 5. They're just not. Which, if you're bringing up the point that it's a refinement thing, like, hey, Devil May Cry 5 had to refine jump canceling, it had to be easy, fine. What about gravity? What about air escapes from the enemies? Like, what happened to these? Are these also, evolutions of Devil May Cry's combat? They're not. I explained it all in my video, and I'm gonna explain it again. Devil May Cry was never as crazy stylish as you're making it out to be. It's just not. It can get that way only when you're good enough. I'm not saying you can't do that. Or especially, it can get that way when you're playing on lower difficulties. Which I don't know how you're even bringing up lower difficulties in action games discourse. When the main definitive difficulty is the hardest difficulty that has weird gimmicks. Enemies are DTing. Enemies DT when you taunt. DMD. This is the thing I had most issues with. A lot of people don't even play Dante Must Die. Yes, on very hard, on Son of Sparta, go ahead and style all you want. It's a sandbox. I appreciate that as well. Dante Must Die though, only Devil May Cry 5's Dante Must Die is that easy. Go ahead and play Devil May Cry 3's Dante Must Die without using items on vanilla. You won't recognize your ass. I'm being like,
you won't recognize your own ass.
I'm being for real.
I know what you meant, but it just came out.
I'm sure. Okay. It's just generally the enemies are easy. They're not as, they do not compensate for the complexity of the characters, except for V, which V has an issue of the enemies having way too much HP.
Well, that's easy because V doesn't get into the air. That's why.
Of course.
It's easier or that's more of a challenge for V. It's not because, he can only hit so hard with summons. No, it's because V has practically no aerial game.
Besides that, enemies have a lot of HP for V, which is a con that I'm going to have for a later question in this video. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The thing is with V, you have to be a responsible father at least. You're going to dodge sideways to get the shadow summon away from the enemy. The enemy is about to slap the bitch out of Shadow. You have to do a sidestep. If the enemy is about to slap the bitch out of Griffin, you have to do a double jump to grab him towards you. It's fun. It's interactive. You're on the ground. You're having combat. With Nero and Dante, you're high up in the air. You can even do it while closing your own eyes. I can do a combo with Dante for you by closing my own eyes. I can clear an encounter with blindfolded, basically. Hell, I beat the mission 10, which is a very old video of mine, blindfolded with Devil May Cry 5. It is easy. It's not a like if you're looking for a sandbox game only. You're not looking for a proper action game. It's not my business to change your way of thinking about action games, but that's just not it. That's just a flaw, that the enemies are that easy and they do not compensate. That is one thing. The other thing, the second thing that I kind of want to be changed in Devil May Cry 6, which, by the way, to put it simply and shortly, I want Devil May Cry 6 to be Devil May Cry 5 with better enemies. I truly doubt you can go above, basic moment-to-moment combat. You can go way too experimental, which is something else that I'm going to talk about in a bit. But like moment-to-moment combat, I doubt you can get any higher than Devil May Cry 5. You can add things. You can make Devil Breakers for Nero, a style switcher type thing and not a resource, which I like them more as a resource, but it is understandable when something does not like them as a resource. You can add little things here and there. I give Nero another weapon, give Dante some 6 other devil dildos, I don't know. You can go with that, but I doubt you can just improve the basic formula that you have right now in Devil May Cry. What you do is have enemies that compensate for this overpowered formula that you have in Devil May Cry 5. Then you have a balance. Then you have some ground combat. Then you have some air combat that is dangerous. One enemy could just slap you with a shotgun from afar. Whatever happened to marionettes in Devil May Cry 1? These guys only have an audio cue and they have a shotgun that they slap your ass with 10 meters away. Whatever happened to enemies like these? They're not prevalent in Devil May Cry 5. Very little gimmicky enemies in Devil May Cry 5. I want gimmicky enemies to be back in Devil May Cry 6. Keep the comboing for fodders. Hell, you can combo in Devil May Cry 4. You can do that in Devil May Cry 3. No one's saying you can't combo. It's just that it's not the be-all, end-all, overall, broad Devil May Cry combat system that you advertise. I'm always mad when one of my favorite franchises gets misrepresented like that. It's not just combat. It's not combo mats. It's way more than that. There's way more depth than just your character depth. That's the number one thing I want changed in Devil May Cry 6. Keep the same playstyle, whatever. But I also want better enemies, stronger enemies that compensate for the complexity of the characters.
Better enemy retaliation techniques.
The whole 9 yards. There's also okay, go ahead. You can go, it's a lot of points. So I'm going to say one, you follow up. Then I'm going to say the other, then you follow up. I believe that's better.
Okay. So for me, look, they already touched on it, but they need to keep doing it. With 4, because technically, really, Nero didn't play all that different from Dante in 4. What made him different was that he had essentially a booster ability in a literal sense. It made him go across the screen faster, and it also made him do a shit ton more damage with all of his techniques, because he essentially had a boosted version of.
You're talking about technique. The Exceed,
but
Exceed is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, the Exceed system. Here's the problem with that: it don't really mean that much when it comes to Nero's kit, because now you created a start and stop situation for people who play Nero. So you got 2 choices. You're either going to fight with that Exceed system, or you're not going to give that much of a shit about it, because you have to make a legitimate choice, especially depending on what difficulty you're playing on. Do you want to use the Exceed system all the time, or are you really just only going to use it for a boss? That annoys me, because that start and stop is fucking dumb.
I see.
It is legitimately dumb, and it's annoying. I want the Exceed system, and I'm going to just go from character to character, even though I'm not going to play him. I want that Exceed system fixed. I want them to make it so he either holds down the button before he does a move, or he holds down the button after he finishes a move. I don't really care, but they need to redesign that Exceed system, because you're creating a situation where the pace that the player naturally wants to play at is being interrupted. Now, also, he uses more buttons than he used to. Nero takes up so many fucking buttons that they put Devil Trigger on a D-pad.
I instantly switched it.
What?
I instantly switched that.
Bro, I literally forgot he could do it after he did it until I got to like halfway through hard mode. I was like, wait, fuck, that's right. I can DT and it's on my D-pad. Yeah, I mean, I ended up switching it anyway. But for Dante, look, stop trying to act like you don't know Dante shit is stale, okay? That shit that they did him so fucking greasy. Oh, we got Cerberus back. Cool. What new things he's gonna do? Man, this is where all the creativity went. And I thought it was a joke at first. Nope. That's where all the creativity went. Because when you get the motorcycle, he's not really fighting on the motorcycle. He's taking it apart and treating it like a Monster Hunter weapon. And then when he gets in the air with it, well, that's the closest he got to actually making it somewhat feel like he's fighting with a motorcycle. And what does he do halfway through it? He treats it like a Monster Hunter weapon halfway through. I'm gonna charge this up and hit you with it, and it grinds on your body. It's basically a chainsaw axe. It's basically
It's like
a chainsaw
claw
axe.
type weapon. I get what you're saying, but go ahead. Continue.
It's like it's painfully slow. I like the weapon as a concept. The problem is the execution. All the combat with it is extremely painfully mundane. I like the fact that you can choose between fighting on top of it or hitting it with somebody. But then the minute you see him in a cutscene, he can't do the one move that we all thought he could do. Like he literally swung himself on the outside and he was, bro, that shit was so cool. Then when he gets the weapon, nothing like that. Like every time we see them try to glimpse at getting a motorcycle weapon, they get close to making it look really cool and interesting. But then when it gets to the execution, there's a fuck up somewhere. But to be fair, that was a first attempt.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna give him too much on it. But the main issue is that Dante's basic and normal default combat and his style leveling system needs to be overhauled. Okay, Dante's had the literal same combat animations now for his default weaponry and also even his new weapons technically for over 15 years. Really think about that for a second. Over 15 years, Dante's default combat and default sword swings and default techniques do the exact same shit.
Oh, I guess I know what you're saying. You mean like overall, like not just the bread and butter. You're not talking about the bread and butter like 3 triangle attacks.
I'm talking about his whole kit.
Like the special attacks, for example.
The styles too.
Like drive and overdrive.
Like, oh shit, he got a level 4. Bro, yeah. Oh, he got a level 4 in his styles. Like, man, I wonder what he's going to get for gunslinger. He can shoot the shotgun behind himself. It's like, are you fucking serious? That was actually on the list. I think it was on his level 4 or some shit. Oh, he can do the nunchuck. He can do the nunchuck fire thing again. So you essentially just decided, let's give him everything from DMC3, except wall run. I don't know how the fuck they keep forgetting wall run. And then you added an extra level, and on most of the cases, the extra level doesn't even give him something new. It gives him something he used to be able to do in a previous game. And I'm just like, you literally just took Dante and gave him new weapons, and you didn't change the styles or any of his default mechanics and combat
So what
style.
they did, I guess, is they...
That's the problem.
Okay, go ahead.
No. That's my only problem. It's not that he's terrible to manage. It's not that he's terrible to use. The problem is that Dante's kit has not deviated enough.
I guess
in the Devil May Cry
the
franchise.
only deviation they did is giving him a snatch with Faust. And that, I guess that and giving him the swords formation.
Bro, I hate Faust. It wasn't even because Faust is a gun. I hated Faust because it literally didn't do it. Was basically, here's a stronger version of your handguns. Oh, and you can also create a meteor too that can do so much damage. You can basically kill a boss in 2 shots.
Like, look, with this one, I'm gonna have to disagree. I disagree with the Nero Issues as well. Just like I guess it's a perspective thing. With Nero, I like it because it turns it into like the difficulty comes from the inputs that you have. It's not just the game that you're playing, which is something I love. Like Metal Gear Rising keeps the challenge up because the challenge, part of the challenge is the inputs. Like blocking is not simply a button that you press. It's pressing forward with the analog and the attack button. That's how you block. With Nero, it's kind of the same story. If you want to get the best DPS, you gotta, get adjusted to this control of the exceed system to exceed at the perfect time. That way you kind of get used to it, and it becomes a constant challenge. Every swing of the sword is a challenge, and that is something I truly value. So I guess you don't really value something like that in Devil May Cry 5 or Force Nero.
No, I value it. My problem is the execution of it. Like I said, it's the execution of it. How it's done is the problem, not that it's there.
I see.
That's my issue.
You want it to be like hold
so
a button and then
leaves...
attack. That way, exceed attacks come out to make it more controllable.
Yeah, but also, but the sacrifice is that when you get to a certain level of the exceed gauge, Nero can't move anymore unless he unleashes the move, or you have to cancel it and start from scratch. Like, make it so, oh yeah, he can do it, but now he can't move once you get to a certain level or some shit. Just change how it functions, because I hate how it's implemented, not that it's there. I hate that Nero was there, but I acknowledge and accept that. But if I'm going to play Nero, or rather be forced to play Nero, I at least want him to be entertaining.
Is it just essentially it being like you want it to be a toggle? You hold a button, then your attacks are exceed. You let go, your attacks are normal?
Yeah, just something like that. And then, if he gets the really powerful move, remove his ability to move while he's in that charge state. That's like the gaming classic. If you know someone has a stupidly powerful move, you make sure when they're charging it, they can't move. It's been around since the 90s and it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
for Nero specifically, I believe that wouldn't work. Nero is the idea of wrath. Like, you're kind of uncontrollable wrath. It comes out with every attack. Like, simply aerial rave with Dante looks very controlled. It looks very controlled and elegant how he goes like, downwards, left, then right, then left, and then one finishing blow that is just so elegant. With Nero, he's swinging like his life depends on it with every swing. I just believe it feeds more into his character, but I definitely understand where you're coming from. You want it to be more convenient. Like, you want to have more control over your character that is supposed to be giving you more control, like Dante.
Bro, people think like I'm a legitimate like grab master with Nero and shit. I'm like, no, I got so used to not being able to maximize my damage because of this exceed bullshit that I just decided, you know what? Let me get to a point where I'm going to do the hand grab finisher bullshit just because this is more guaranteed and I have more control over this. But now the unique situation I'm going to go into is V.
Okay.
We don't really know if V gonna come back. V was obviously an experiment, but here's the thing. Everyone said that it felt like them trying to bring back Chaos Legion. Well, motherfucker, first off, actually do that. Just go and make a character who plays like Sieg Warfrick completely. That's all you had to do. Go play Chaos Legion and you will see that Chaos Legion feels like Devil May Cry 3 before Devil May Cry 3. In fact, the cancel animation effect in Chaos Legion is modeled after the Devil May Cry 3's cancel effect animation. Those rings that pop out of Dante, that's modeled after the cancel animation effect.
Rings?
In Chaos Legion.
The crazy combos.
The rings that come out of his body when he goes into those. That's modeled after the cancel animation
Capcom,
in Chaos Legion.
Capcom reused that animation?
Bro, like seriously, if you ever just watch any gameplay of Chaos
friend of
Legion,
mine,
whenever he goes into those cancel animations.
I see. I'm gonna check that out. A friend of mine is a huge enthusiast of Chaos Legion. He says it has the best summoning system. And
I still need to read the books.
Okay.
Yeah. Your friend has good taste. So, just make him play like that. Let Nero be strong enough to, V be strong enough to attack. Or, you know what? Fuck it. Have it to where Vergil has the choice of splitting himself now that he's technically a whole being. Let Vergil have a double trigger that isn't a double trigger. Call it a morph. Or call it a morph. So now you can just literally play the game as V.
Or just like controls or just more. Simply control the demons as Vergil. You don't even have to switch back to V. Or do you want V?
Yeah, because I would like that, because here's the thing. Vergil, who I'm going to get into next now, Vergil's got one of the, ironically, the similar problem to Dante, despite Vergil being perfect in a sense. Vergil's fucking problem is that they absolutely and adamantly refuse to give him new weapons and techniques. Everything Vergil has is a clone or a copy that should not exist of something he's already used. Or it could be that since Vergil has a better understanding of demon magic, he knows how to manifest copies of the shit. It's weird. There's no explanation to where Vergil needs his own origin game. We all know this, but there's no legitimate explanation to how Vergil has this high comprehension of magic / demon magic. Yes, their parents are magical. His mother's a fucking witch. But what I'm getting at is that there's no direct explanation to why Vergil has this much of an enhanced understanding over Dante. Okay? So something happened where he can learn to clone these things. But here's the problem. We don't even know that these are clones. Most people just think that somehow there's two versions of Beowulf. Somehow there's just Vergil can now manifest a copy of a sword that he has not touched or seen in, at this point in the story, chronologically, almost 22, 23 years. Okay? So I'm looking at this in a very, very simple way. Stop giving Vergil Beowulf and Forced Edge in a combo. Give him an actual kit. And you know what? You're right. Let him decide, okay, let him be able to fight, but at a reduced amount of power if he manifests out the demon summons. But here's the problem. Remember what they said in Devil May Cry 5. They're dead. They chose to not go back into Vergil's mind because they know their thoughts born from terror and stress. Right? So, but Vergil knows Mirage bullshit. Let Vergil find out that he has two versions of a Devil Trigger. He still has his traditional Devil Trigger, which I'm not sure why the fuck that shit has to be on the Shin level. And now he can take his after image Mirage Devil Trigger and he can construct it to look like previous summons that he's used or previous demons.
That could have been
make them be literal constructs.
That could have been a good justification, I guess. You know, I never thought about critiquing Vergil because I always thought Vergil is the embodiment of power.
Because and let me tell you why you haven't. Because Vergil as a character has already been refined to the point where people just like trying to use him in a new setting. But here's the problem with that. Same with Dante. You're breeding stagnation. Dante's creativity was supposed to come from how he played, plus the style mix and the weapon mix. Here's the problem. The weapons are not keeping pace. The styles have completely stagnated. So they're primarily relying on giving old players and new players a new toy instead of working on Dante as a complete character. Vergil is literally in the same spot. The difference is Vergil doesn't have a style system. He has a reward system for playing the game well. Which is ironically, that's what they did in Devil May Cry 3, but this time it has a meter. I don't know if you know this. I keep having to tell people this, and I'm pissed that when I tried to put it on GameFAQs, they took it down for 7 fucking years. But one person puts it up when the Switch version comes out, and they let them keep it. So Dante in Devil May Cry 3 functions like the style system, the style meter for Vergil in Devil May Cry 4 and 5. But for Dante, the shit is technically invisible.
What exactly?
When when Dante does them, sometimes when you do Dante's combos, you get to the part where there's a rapid fire press section of it. Sometimes it's easier to trigger it, or sometimes it's harder, or sometimes it just gets like twice as long as it's supposed to be. That is based on your style. It's a style responsive combo extension.
If you're in triple
so
S,
when you have the lowest amount.
Okay, go ahead.
No, not even that. Not even that. When you are in default, when you haven't even gotten to a B, it takes like 6 or 7 button presses, just as an example, to go into sword rank. See. When you get to A, as an atomic and above, it takes 3. But when you're in S, it doesn't matter how many, but when you're in S, what'll happen is you can keep tapping the button, and the extent that the attack will last is doubled or close to doubled. But most people don't know this because they jump, cancel, or dash out of it, because that shit takes so long, another enemy is probably trying to hit you. Right? They didn't show you and tell you that you do this in the game's own explainer built into the game. They don't explain that. But when you get to 4, specifically when you get to 4 and you get to play the special edition with Vergil, they literally made it a gauge. But what made Vergil's different is that he can do it just by locking onto you build meter. But they knew that was too powerful and broken. So when they got to 5, the only thing they did was they made it so now you actually have to hit the enemy and you also have to dodge the enemy in order to build that meter up. And that's why Vergil's moves get extra special effects instead of just getting instead of the combo just being longer.
I see.
So it's you see how it's an evolved system, but here's the thing. It still applies to Dante. The only difference is they don't tell you with Dante. And I think in 5 is the first time they actually stopped it. So in 5, it is just one button press and it doesn't get longer. I can't remember. I need to go and test it out. But they did that in 3, but then they immediately gave that entire system to Vergil in Special Edition 4, and they did it again in 5. So they have the same problem, but to different extents. Vergil's problem is his kit is not evolving correctly. His kit is basically taking his basic weaponry from Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition and adding 2 or 3 new moves, and they gave him Doppelganger, which he never had before. That's literally Devil May Cry 5 Vergil. Dante got the opposite problem. His problem is functionality and features in correlation to changes with his weapons, and they're not the same. His weapons changed every game, and sometimes they do different things, but his styles have been the exact same. He shouldn't even have 4 styles. I've been saying this for a long time. They need to put Gunslinger and Swordmaster together. They need to put Trickster and Royal Guard together. There needs to be a sword slinger, and there needs to be a trick guard.
A Gunmaster.
That's all they need.
Gunmaster.
No, then Gunblade. They should just call it Gunblade or Gunblade Master, and they need to call the other one Trick Guard. Because look, you can have a block button and you can have a dodge button. That's essentially what those styles are all based on. You can have, and Dante, we already know, Dante can shoot in multiple directions. Why can't he shoot a bullet in the middle of one of his combos? Make him shooting a gun the beginning or end of a combo. You know, like this, it's not fucking hard, but they want it to be hard. He can use the Ebony and Ivory, switch out between them, or just pull out Ivory, which is the one that hits the hardest, while he's doing some of his sword attacks, because Dante normally swings with one hand, and unlike Vergil, who does two-handed. That's one of their biggest differences. So then if he has the shotgun, well, the shotgun's got the blowback, and he knows that. So when he fights with the sword and shotgun, boom, he'll end a move with the shotgun instead of starting it. Or if it's a launcher, he'll launch him with the shotgun and then go into, close range sword attack moves, stab moves, whatever. It's right there, but they never do it. Dante does the shit in cutscenes that he doesn't even do when you control him.
The thing you're thinking about, I guess, when you're talking about all this, is that one scene of Dante falling from Timothy Gru and spinning like crazy on the blood gargoyles, shooting and swinging his sword in a cyclonic way.
Bro, I literally thought that was going to be one of his ultimate techniques.
That was beautiful, and I don't know how it's never implemented in any game. But here's the thing, though.
You know exactly why. Because the people who make the cutscenes are the cool people, and the people who make the attacks are the realistic people. That's the problem.
Yeah, but look, the main thing about why having Gunslinger alone as a style, it just feeds into what, at this point, everybody wants or expects from Dante. It's look at how much complexity Gunslinger adds to the Coyote in Devil May Cry 5. How you can just do that Gunslinger first, then you can keep it as a loop. Pressing the button again, he rolls forward. Or to the right or left, he does a, roll, then shoots. Then rolls again, then shoots. And you have iframes and all of that. So it kind of has its own depth. Backward has its own iframes. Everything has its own, kind of unique thing. Even pressing jump gets Dante to jump and then shoot the enemy like that. I guess...
And you see what I mean?
I know.
Like, they have the potential, and then they don't utilize it.
They don't want to deviate from the safe zone for Dante. Like, Dante, complexity.
Which is the problem, because he's meant to be complex, but not complex to the point of annoying people. He's meant to be complex because you're allowed to go down different avenues.
I understand. The thing...
And they got stagnant.
I see.
That's the problem. Now, is there anybody left? No, Trish is perfect. And, I should stress, I'm not saying that because of what I put in Google. I'm saying that because Trish, to me, is perfect. The only problem with Trish is a problem that they themselves kind of sort of fixed as quickly as it showed up. Trish has her own style when it comes to weapon usage and combat format. She does not use Sparta exactly like Dante does. She also mixes in her punches and kicks when Sparta is not being used by her, or she'll do it even if Sparta is on her back. Also, let's not forget what made her fun was that she still had a gun, but she still had 2 dedicated buttons to mix and match what she attacks you with. Remember, for me, I always change the controls in Devil May Cry games, but there's one thing I do that a lot of people don't think. I change the default attack button. For me, triangle is jump, square is attack.
Square is attack.
So,
okay.
And triangle is jump, except for when I'm fucking with Nero. But we're not gonna get into him. So, when it comes to Trish, remember, her physical attacks with electricity are mapped to her first attack button. And the second attack is the fucking sword. So that means you could have Dante control to where he has a normal combo, but if you press the shoot button in the middle of his combos now, he'll actually incorporate the gun into the combo. And he'll get more combo variety instead of combo A, B, C, D. And by the way, that's not hyperbole. Dante's combos are all labeled A, B, C, and D for default combos. Well, how about we go to E, F, G, H, I? Get the whole fucking alphabet. I don't care. Make it so, and if he changes the gun, he changes what combo comes out. Like, it's so easy to do, but they just don't try. But when he goes into a cutscene, he does it all the time.
This feeds into a whole longer argument of what they didn't want to do with Devil May Cry 5. They didn't want to get way too experimental. They just went safe with it.
Yeah, they didn't even try. That's the problem. Dante's not meant to be safe. Because if you fuck up with Dante, guess what? We can just take the weapon out. Look, listen, everybody thought that weapon you get that explodes, the exploding swords thing in Devil May Cry 4, it looked cool, but in execution, it wasn't all that fun. But it wasn't even a bad weapon.
It's my favorite weapon.
The problem with the weapon, the problem with the weapon was they didn't creatively try with the combos you could make. Everything was just a stab, wait for an explosion, or it's let me put out these things and then wait for an enemy to be dumb enough to walk into them, which they literally almost never are. So it's just that Dante's entire kit has gotten too safe. And Lucifer, which had the most potential to be unique, all the uniqueness ended up going in the Pandora's box.
We were talking about the weapon. Yeah, we were talking about Lucifer. The thing is, though, Lucifer, the thing I love about it so much is that it's a setup weapon. Like, you kind of...
I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate it, but it needed more creativity.
Yeah, it could have been a lot more. That's one thing. It is my favorite weapon because of the, pure damage, pure gimmicks that it has. The setups that you can do, with the traps and all that. You can have a lot of swords around you. A boss rushes towards you and he gets fucked without even knowing what he's running into. That's something I love about Lucifer.
And bro, here's the one that I'm still confused about.
What?
How the fuck does this devil trigger have a rose? Was it a plant weapon? If it was a plant demon, I get it, but that's not the real issue. For me, the real issue is that how the fuck is Dante using a demon rose from a weapon that he doesn't have equipped on him? Because that rose is still in Devil May Cry 5.
This is something that feeds into my third point. This was actually a 3 bullet points that I've written down on this question, which changes into the combat of Devil May Cry 6. Your point now, all of this talking and all that, is that you want these characters to be in Devil May Cry 6.
Oh, yeah. Anti-air, as far as the enemy combat, and they need to have anti-air reactive abilities, offensive and defensive abilities. I'd like to go into more detail, but it's self-explanatory. It's just that they need to have anti-air, because like you said, the only one who ever responds to him in the air are the fucking knights. Everyone else, if they're not already an aerial enemy, they don't respond to him in the air. Nope. You go and make it so everybody has an anti-air offensive and defensive function.
You can keep the comboing for some fodder enemies. It is what it is. It's fun to do on the last enemy. But there's much more to Devil May Cry than just styling. That was my first point. The second one was something we talked about in the stage design changes, the second question. So I don't really need to go a lot about that one. It's just generally have a lot more ring out possibilities. Have me interact with the stage.
Yeah.
Have the stage suddenly just bump us all into the air and then just do something with it. Get creative. If a Devil May Cry 6 comes out with buttery smooth controls like Devil May Cry 5, that is the perfect opportunity to go out of the safe zone. It's insane that Devil May Cry doesn't do it. Every other game does it. A lot of other games that you see, you're playing 2 or 3 games in one. Devil May Cry 5, you're literally playing one game. It's just a combat, which a lot of people wished for that, but truly be careful for what you wish for, because you get Devil May Cry 5 that is purely combat. I saw a trailer the other day of Nero's Mega Man thingy, and it was a promotional trailer, and it had 2D sections. 2D sections. Imagine if that was in Devil May Cry 5. How awesome would that have been? That would have been just a fun arcadey thing, you know, kind of nod or kind of Easter egg to
they almost never have mini games.
Yeah, it was just from a promotional thing. But imagine if it was actually in the final game. How awesome would that have been? Just do some stuff that change up the moment-to-moment gameplay. That's the second point. Then we get to the third point that you talked in depth about, which was Lady, Trish, the complexity, the changes that never happened for Dante, the changes that happened for Vergil that weren't really that cool. My recording
or lack thereof.
My recording just corrupted, by the way. Only the audio is going on. So from I guess this is just
now
gonna be an
you
audio.
see why it was a good idea. Now you see why it was a good idea to get Audacity.
By the way, Mr. Zax offered to just record with Audacity my audio and my face cam with OBS, which OBS today. That's 2 times my recordings have corrupted.
Yeah, you're recording on some BS. So,
the third point, where you mentioned the complexity of the characters, the lack of creativity, the lack of approach, it gets me to my point, to something that I don't want in Devil May Cry 6. Which, I don't know if you're going to agree with this, but have less playable characters is what I'm...
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on.
I'm going to request from Capcom if they ever make this. The main problem that stems from having a lot of playable characters is that you kind of go with safe enemy design that kind of works for a lot of playable characters. Look at what Devil May Cry 5 did. You have 3 playable characters, V, Nero, and Dante. So what you do is not make gimmicky characters, gimmicky enemies in Devil May Cry 5. Why would we make gimmicky characters? Come on, why would we make gimmicky enemies? Just make them all safe so that they all work for all 3 enemy types. You kind of see the problem here with Devil May Cry 6 if it approaches, a release game of Devil May Cry 6 on release having like, I don't know, 4 or 5 playable characters. I would dislike that since it kind of it strips from the creativity of the enemy design. That way the enemy design has to compensate for, getting attacked by 5 different playable characters. Which, like, look at Devil May Cry 4. Devil May Cry 4 didn't do that. Devil May Cry 4 had 2 playable characters, and it kind of designed around them, the enemies were still difficult. They were still difficult, but you still had 2 playable characters. Whereas Devil May Cry 5 went with the total opposite. Devil May Cry 5 went with, I'm going to have 3 playable characters, and I'm not going to spend any time giving actual depth to the enemies. That way, every playable character can just kind of gel well, quote-unquote, gel well with the enemy design. That is something I dislike. I hope Devil May Cry 6 has only, if it's even 1 playable character, I'd be fine. 1 playable character, or at max 2 playable characters. Again, Vergil and Dante, in a much more concise story, I'd say. That's what I really want. So what do you have to say about this change? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you want more and more and more playable characters? I'm more of a fan of having not so many playable characters at launch. Then, in natural Devil May Cry fashion, have a special edition that gives us more characters. So the devs have some time to make characters that work with the philosophy of the enemy design. That's a little better than coming up with a game with 3 playable characters, where the enemies are all lazily designed and not really that gimmicky or difficult. So what do you have to say about that?
Now, you know damn well I disagree with that. So for number 4, what are the pros of 5 to you? Like, bullet point me, what do you think are some good points to
the
5?
The pros to Devil May Cry 5 are simple to point out. First of all, the complexity of the characters. That is something I truly, truly value. People think I don't value, but I do value. Like, generally the complexity, especially with Dante and how many options and possibilities you have. They're basically around the infinity for when it comes to Dante possibilities. Nero has a lot of amazing possibilities. V has limited possibilities, but he does have a lot. Vergil has a lot of, interconnected moveset and all that. I love that sort of shit in Devil May Cry. Like, Devil May Cry just breeds creativity and sandbox design with its complex characters. Something else that feeds into the complexity is that every character has their own standard thing that used to be a thing for one character. For example, last we checked for Devil May Cry 3's Vergil was the only character that had things that can move as he's doing something. He can attack and have summon swords. Devil May Cry 5 gave that to literally every character. Every character has a summon type thing. So like with Dante you have Faust. With Dante you have the sword summons, which are some of the best things added in Devil May Cry ever. Like, Double Sword Dante just giving you the sword's formation, that is one of my favorite things ever, because you can do things as you're having animations with Dante. It was the same with Nero. After executing a streak, or basically the stinger, you can press square at the perfect time and Nero punches the enemy after the stinger, making the enemy stay right close to you. You can do the same with Vergil with his summon swords. Of course, he originated the fucking, mechanic. You can do the same thing with Dante. Just after a stinger, input a source formation, the enemy stops at, point blank. It's just amazingly done. You have a lot of things that are, used to be only for Vergil. Now they're for Dante as well. Things that used to be only for Dante, now they're for Nero as well. That is something I truly, truly love. So should I move on to the next pro, or are you going to talk all about this pro that I just talked about?
No, because I knew going in, and half the reason why you're here is that I knew you and me would have different pros. We got probably all the same cons, but we would have different pros. So, go through all the pros you got, man.
Okay, so the first pro was the complexity of the playable characters. The second pro is gonna definitely have to be the movement system, which is it's just at its best with Devil May Cry 5. Like, I wouldn't call the old movement system kind of janky in some spots and all that, especially the way you can't attack with some attacks when you're near the ground. You're in the air, but you're near the ground. You cannot input a lot of the attacks. That way you just drop back down without doing any attacks. But like, generally, the controls are so buttery smooth in Devil May Cry 5 that I just can't begin to explain them. Like the double jumps, the platforming, which they didn't do platforming. That's gonna be for the Devil May Cry 5 cons, so we're gonna get to the next question. But like, generally, the wall jumps that you can do, the jump canceling, the movement, the everything, the lock-on being at its absolute best. It's just the best movement system. That's Devil May Cry 5. It has the best movement system out of all Devil May Crys. What do I also have as a pro for Devil May Cry? It has to be the weapons. Devil May Cry 5 has my favorite gauntlet type enemy weapon, after Ifrit. Ifrit is my favorite for some very, very interesting depth that I can go on all day about for Devil May Cry 1. I honestly, I'm just going to go with this. Barlog is my favorite gauntlet weapon. I'm just going to say it. I love it more than Ifrit by a little bit. Ifrit being so complex with having you have a hook, punching mode and a kicking mode. You can charge it up with fire. You can dodge, having iframes with multiple ways. You have to charge it to actually get the, big impact divine dragon thing with Dante, rather than just having accessibility to it at all times. Generally, the weapons in Devil May Cry 5 are my favorite. They're so beautiful, they're so gimmicky. Like Cavalier, for example. All the circle attacks keep the motorcycle intact. All the triangle attacks separate the motorcycle and make him look like a chainsaw. Which I was about to disagree with you when you talked about this in your point, but I knew we would get to this point right now, and I knew I could just talk about it right now. I love Cavalier very, very much. It's in my top 3 weapons of all time. It's like the fact that you can press the button faster to switch gears faster to change to the next attack, or you can keep the button, not switch to the next attack with the weapon. That way you stay in like second gear with the Cavalier, and it's just very, very beautiful. It is a damaging tool at its purest. I love when damaging tools just look like damaging tools. Like, for example, Lucifer in Devil May Cry 4 is a damaging tool, but it doesn't look like one. Whereas Cavalier in Devil May Cry 5, it looks like it deals a lot of damage. The impact behind everything, the damage, the sound design behind everything. It just looks like it's gonna damage you and it's gonna mess up how your face looks. It's generally something I love about Devil May Cry 5, and it's the weapons, and I don't need to talk even more about it. Like, for example, something like Aerial Rave got simplified in Devil May Cry 5. You just do it with a normal triangle attack, or for Zax's case, with the normal square button. You don't need Swordmaster to do that. It's the same thing with Yamato. It's the same thing with the Red Queen by Nero. It's the same thing with everything. Even Cerberus from Devil May Cry 3 came back with a bunch of complexity, like holding circle down and holding triangle down. Hold inputs are all electricity. Circle inputs are all the polearm attacks. Triangle inputs are all the nunchucks attacks. It's beautiful. I don't know. I haven't even touched on the long range weapons and how you can roll away with Nero and shoot at the same time, how you can just charge it up, and I don't need to get into that because we will literally be here all day. Dante having a snatch attack with Faust is just all the things I ever needed. The weapons, that's something I truly, truly love. Let's move on to the next thing, which is the boss fights. That is definitely a pro for Devil May Cry 5. I absolutely am in love with the boss fights of Devil May Cry 5. They're very good. Strike a very nice balance of gimmicky and 1v1. I would love more gimmicks to them, but Gilgamesh is there, so I'm kind of satisfied with what we have. The bosses in Devil May Cry 5 are top notch. I love them. Something else I love about Devil May Cry 5, which is also a con, oddly enough, I'm gonna get to it, is the game design. The game design of Devil May Cry 5 is just something that is admirable. Mission select, convenient, difficulty select. You can beat Urizen in the prologue, allowing you to unlock difficulties faster, just in case you lost your save data. If you want to start a vanilla Dante Must Die rather than a new game plus Dante Must Die that the game intends, you can do that. Or, Bloody Palace. Just generally the game design, skippable cutscenes, no walkie-talkies. That is rarely talked about, but it is something I highly appreciate after playing a lot of games with shitty game design. And I'm not afraid to say it. God of War Ragnarok. I'm gonna say it right there. A lot of games have amazing combat, amazing, moment-to-moment gameplay that gets gate locked. It gets gate kept by its shitty game design. Devil May Cry 5 does not have that, but also has it that I'm gonna touch it for the cons. One thing before we reach the last is the simple shop system with the red orbs. Thank you very much for making it only red orbs. You beat enemies, you get red orbs, you get stronger stuff. It's convenient, it's simple, it's lovely. I love it. It's very, very simplistic. You buy everything with red orbs. There are no weird other currencies and all that. It's only red orbs, and that's where it stayed, that's where it stopped. The last thing I love very much about Devil May Cry 5, it's definitely a pro. It's very easy to say as well. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have the same opinion. It's the music. The music is very beautiful. The music is nicely implemented. It's dynamic. Like, Dante's music is not that cool when you listen to it as a standalone song, but when you listen to it as you're in combat, you get to that triple S and it's just, you cannot kill me! And it all gets crazy. It's fucking lovely. The boss music, Cavalier has my favorite soundtrack of Devil May Cry ever. Like, it just never ends. I know I just talked like a mad scientist in a lab about Devil May Cry 5's pros, but trust me, it has a lot of pros that I really, really like. It also has something else that I love. The sandbox design that it has, which, it could be a blessing and a curse, depending on how you look at it. It is a sandbox. I can do combat however I want. I can approach some enemy however I want, whenever I want. It is a lovely design. That's about it for the pros of Devil May Cry 5. I'm sure I missed out on some, but man, do I love it. I just love it. I love Devil May Cry 5. It has a lot of awesome pros.
So for me, first pro that I love is I have more than 2 playable characters. Second pro, the characters have essentially, barring one exception, equal amounts of stages that they can be played in. Now this one sounds a little bit unique. I like that you get the ability to turn off certain abilities even after you bought them.
Yes. Beautiful.
I want to say all the weapons, but instead I'm going to say, as a pro, I like that there are so many deviations to the weapons.
Yep. Their design.
Yeah, I like
approach,
that
right?
the music, they have reactive music based on how good you're winning. Let's call it what it is. It's based on how good you're winning. I can't say the story is a pro. It's not a con, but it's not a pro either.
Story is bittersweet.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I also like that there is direct character interactions outside of there's an enemy in front of us. Because if there's one thing that is not noted a lot, but the Devil May Cry franchise was lacking, it's direct interactions. Most interactions begin and end with Devil May Cry 3.
I see.
And even then, the vast majority of those are Lady and Dante. So when you get to 4, Dante shows up and talks to Nero 3 times. Technically, it wasn't really a conversation when they first met. He says, "Adios, kid," after they stopped talking to each other. But when he meets him again, he's like, "Oh, I know who you are now."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, still gonna beat your ass though. And then the final one is, hey, listen, I'm gonna go beat the threat. Stay the fuck out my way. He's like, nah, you ain't ready for that. You ain't ready for the smoke. He's like, I didn't fucking ask you if I was ready for the smoke. Oh well, I'm still gonna give you the smoke. And then there's the end. Give my sword back, okay? You can take this one too. Nope. You can keep that sword. You can keep that sword.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave though. I don't care if you see me again, but I'm gonna leave now. See, that's not much of a fucking interaction. And then Dante literally spent more time talking to bosses than he fucking did Nero. And then you see the ending of the game, or the beginning, or the beginning of Dante, sorry. He has in-depth conversation with Trish and Lady. Then at the end, he has a conversation with Trish and Lady that he doesn't want to be put in the middle of an argument that they're about to have. And then that ends it. Like, no, damn it. You got it right with 3. 3 had a darkness to it. It had a depth and a pacing. 4, like I said, I basically feel like I'm playing a very much extended arcade game with the way they handle
most
some
of
these
the
damn
interactions
scenes
come from the antagonist talking rather than the protagonist.
Yeah, that was the biggest fucking problem. That was in the original game. Nevin stood out and Cerberus stood out.
Yeah,
because they had kind of sort of like the most antagonistic depth going on. Beowulf's problem was that Beowulf was extremely generic, so that's why he's so easily forgettable. But I think my last pro is also they made it so every character has a unique style of combat that is
true.
You know, it has the foundation of a Devil May Cry style, but also they have their own unique functions and features, which is what made Special Edition so cool. Nero didn't feel like Dante. Dante didn't feel like Nero. Vergil feels a little bit like Dante, but that's only because of the 2 weapons that, well, Dante got in Devil May Cry 3. But here's the thing. Vergil got all the weapons first. So technically, Dante plays more like Vergil than vice versa. But people don't like to think about that. Yeah, I know. But also, Dante pretty much forsake those weapons. So Vergil using them makes it unique.
Vergil just picked them up after him, right?
Yeah, and which is still weird. It's so weird in 4 of anything, but that's another story. So those are my pros. All right, so now let's hear your cons.
Interesting pros. Devil May Cry 5 cons. Okay. It's funny how one of my favorite enemies in Devil May Cry 5, or in Devil May Cry in general, is the Fury, or the Hell Judaica and all that. These are like one of my favorite enemies ever. Or, you know, the Guts type enemy, the big Angelo guy.
Damn, that is.
But then, coincidentally,
the Venom
also has the worst enemy design, like possibly.
No, I'm not
any other
disagreeing.
game
I'm
that
just saying you got that
played.
Venom.
Maybe there is, like, maybe that's a bit harsh. Okay, look, the enemies. The enemies are way too weak. Like, I actually have begun to describe how weak they are a couple of points back when we were talking about, you know, the changes in combat, or the changes that we would love to see in Devil May Cry 6. I talked about what I dislike about the enemies. They are generally weak. They get stunned way too easily. They get snatched out of their animations with Nero way too easily, or with Dante when it comes to Faust. I'm talking about the attack with holding forward and square with Faust, then pressing it at the right time, then they get jumped towards you. But generally, the biggest problem that I have with Devil May Cry is just the enemies. It doesn't even have to be the air camping. Generally, the enemies lack gimmicks. They lack a puzzle element to them that usually action games have. They just have it. You have to know how to break an enemy first, then you get to play with your food. Devil May Cry 5 skips to the playing part instantly. You're instantly comboing him. He's very easy. They rarely even swing at you, even in Dante Must Die. And that is generally just a big con that I have. Next up, Dante only campaign not being a thing. Or maybe Nero only campaign. Or maybe V. What if I want to play with V only? How is it that only with Vergil I can play throughout the entirety of the 20 missions that Devil May Cry 5 has? It is baffling that Devil May Cry 5 has such an amazing game design, which I mentioned in the pros, but yet it forgets this one big thing that would have changed the whole game for me. I want to play the entirety of the story with Dante. I don't care if there are some missions that require Nero Snatch or whatever. You can get around them. Don't act like you can't get around them with some basic tweaking. If you can add Vergil to go through the entirety of the missions, and it has all of these snatch moments with Nero and all that, surely you can do the same with Dante. I can't believe I only have like what is it? 7 missions, 5 missions, 6 missions with Dante in Devil May Cry 5, and like. The cure to have for that is ideally, the Bloody Palace. But have you seen how easy that motherfucker is up until you reach stage 60? Or even stage 80, I would say. It doesn't turn into DMD until way too late. I turned off jump cancels, by the way, in Devil May Cry 5. I'm sure you heard that in my video. And the Bloody Palace was still easy. It gets hard, and don't get me wrong, it gets difficult where it throws 3 Furies at you, 3 Impusa Queens, whatever they're called. It throws at you 3 Impusas, 3 Behemoths. Just fight them. It does get difficult, but what's the point when like that happens at stage 90, at stage 80? I want to play the campaign missions, the absolute, like I want to fight Gilgamesh using Dante. I want to fight what enemy? Needhog. Needhog is such an interesting boss fight, by the way. The tragedy is that you fight him as V. You're absolutely not supposed to fight him as V. There's also Gayron, whatever he's called. That, you know, Cavalier is on top of him right now. He's a very gimmicky fight. He moves around. He has some interesting attacks. Imagine fighting him as Dante, as Nero.
Bro, Grayon. It's Grayon.
I'm sorry. Look, there's an enemy in God of War Ghost of Sparta goals. He's called Garyon. I believe on stream I kept calling him Gayron, not knowing his name. And I'm sorry.
Well, technically this isn't a minor channel, so you're fine. But it's just a really funny fuck up.
Okay. But that is generally my con. That is generally a con in Devil May Cry 5. It is that I can't choose a character and play the entirety of the 20 missions with him. I'm gonna move on to a next con with Devil May Cry 5. This is gonna be kind of. I'm sure you can do that. I've seen combo mod clips.
That annoys me.
Yeah,
I need to check if you can do that with PC mods.
I've seen Mission 3.
Oh no, I have the Devil May Cry trainer
where people are playing as Dante
I don't
and
know.
combo mods and all that. They're using the stage in a very creative way. It's absolutely beautiful. You should check it out.
The third con. I want to get the mods to do that.
Yeah, the third con is a kind of a subjective one. I'm sure some people might not have the same feelings. There's a significant lack of game-changing sections. So what do I mean by game-changing sections? It's essentially playing another game while you're in Devil May Cry. So for example, I'm not asking for a shmups. I'm not asking for something completely insane. I am, however, asking for a TD section as Nero using Mega Man's thing. Even if it's just like 5 minutes of that, if done well, you can't fathom how amazing it is. If done poorly, you get that one mission, Route 666, I think, in Bayonetta, where you have to do the airplane thingy before reaching Jean to fight her in a boss fight. That is horribly done. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for it being done in an actual correct way, which one of these game-changing sections would have to be platforming. Platforming not being in Devil May Cry 5 is a crime. I know it's a very, very specific hot take. Not a lot of people are going to agree with. I doubt anyone is going to agree with me for this one. But imagine if platforming was implemented in a creative way for Devil May Cry 5 with these buttery smooth controls, trickstering so easily, triple jumping or quadruple jumping with Nero. Imagine all that. Yet they just rarely touched or, you know, even rarely glazed the platforming game of Devil May Cry. They never even did that. You do all these weird gimmicky platforms in Devil May Cry 4 with such clunky controls for platforming, and you don't do it for Devil May Cry 5? Are you serious? Like that was the exact part to do it, and you didn't do it. It's actually baffling and insane. Devil May Cry 5 does dive into some game-changing aspects, mainly a Devil Breaker with Nero, where it gets into a third-person shooter. It's actually beautiful. I appreciate some of that. Or, with V, which is a whole-ass game-changer. I appreciate V for just purely that. He switches up the moment-to-moment combat. It is still the moment-to-moment combat, technically speaking, but it's wildly different. It's kind of, you're playing a different game. You're playing Pokemon at that point. I wish there was more platforming. I wish there was more gimmicky shmup-style sections. But like, Devil May Cry 6, this is your chance to get creative with it. Give me QTEs. I don't care. I like QTEs when they're done right. Wonderful 101, by the way. Yeah. Like, it's insane. That's all that I'm going to say. I'm going to move on to the next con, which is...
Okay.
It's pretty simplistic. I'm not going to stick too long on it. And it's the enemy HP when you're using V in DMD. That was very, very catchy. When you're in DMD, the enemies have a lot of health for V to handle. Now, you can actually technically read the book countless times, summon your DT nightmare, fuck up the way the guy's face looks, and move on. But like, that still technically takes long. What if you're doing like a normal run? What if you're, limiting yourself from using DT? What if you're doing a no upgrade run? Which that was a fucking hell to go through with Devil May Cry 5. I love the no upgrade run, by the way. It's very good. It removes jump canceling. It adds a lot of responsibility in the combat, interactability. But besides that, enemies have a lot of HP for V in DMD. That's one thing I'll stand by. The next thing that is a con is the flat stage design and the combat encounters. There are some, as I said, for Devil May Cry 5. We talked about it earlier with what we want in the stage design changes for Devil May Cry 6. I'm not going to dive deeper into this again, but it's very, very simplistic. The stage design is very, very vanilla. It's very simplistic. It's very flat. It's very... What do you call it? It's very safe. Like, hey,
mundane.
Let's not add
The word
anything.
you're looking for is mundane.
Yeah. Mundane. Like, you're just looking at the void. Basically, it's the void. The void is the practice thing in Devil May Cry 5. Every stage is the void. Not every, I'm being a bit harsh. There are some stages that get kind of experimental. You can climb some things with Nero, with Dante. You can get behind cover. You can do this, that, the third. But like, it does not go to the extent that it's supposed to. I don't know why. The Devil May Cry 5 is so buttery smooth. The controls are so good. I want to hold them up on my shoulder and spin them around. They're so good. Yet they don't get the devs just didn't get experimental with the game design, with the stage design. I suppose it was a publisher demand to make it as safe as possible, as combo safe as possible, which is a thing that could be a enemy talk as well. I guess Utsuno, because look, you can't convince me Utsuno that made DMC 3 and 4 made such a brain dead stage design and enemy design for DMC 5. Come on now. I'm sure he was just limited by the hype created by the community. Like that, it's right for business. DMC 5 is right for business. It's only combat, it's comboing easily, and the stage design is flat. You can combo all you want. That's a con, and I'm gonna move on to the last con because I don't want to stay here because I know I'm gonna get death threats via emails if I keep on talking about this. So next we have the bad level design generally. This one is again one we talked about at the start of the video. I don't need to touch on it very longly. There is not a lot of creative level design or even serviceable level design. All you get is the couple of starting missions with Nero and V, and then mission 11 and 12 a little bit with Dante, and that's it. The rest is just all the inside of a vagina. That's where you are. That's where you fight. That's where you traverse. I don't know why they didn't get deeper. I don't know why they didn't give us another layer of hell other than just the Clifoth being inside of it and all that. They could have went way too crazy. The sky was the limit, but they for some reason didn't get to that limit. But it is what it is. These are the cons that I have with Devil May Cry 5. I'm running out of breath, but I had to get all of that out of my chest. I thank you very much for actually inviting me to this podcast. Again, highly appreciated. Thank you.
No problem, man. It was you or Electric Underground, but Electric Underground is fucking hard to get a hold of.
Yep.
So
I recommend Chaser Tech, by the way, if you ever want to talk to some DMC vet that also is passionate about these things. But anyways, that's for you to decide.
So for me, the cons, well, as we all know, the first commandment is thou shalt have no con greater than the concept of Nero. But moving away from that,
What?
The Faust
No, no,
weapons
no.
ammunition being red orbs. That is a
Okay.
genuine problem for me. I don't hate Faust as a weapon. I hate the execution. In fact, if you've been paying attention to this video, you'll notice that
Yes.
I technically don't hate a lot of Devil May Cry 5. I hate the execution of some of the stuff that is present in Devil May Cry 5.
I see.
So, chief among them being Faust, because as we all know, even though he won't say it, and technically this is an opinion, but let's be honest, it's a fucking accurate opinion. We all know that Capcom wants to shoehorn microtransactions in any way, shape, and form in practically every game that they release, even if it makes no sense to be there. So in the case of Devil May Cry, that's practically impossible to do, because essentially it's an arcade game. So instead of doing something smart like, I don't know, making it so you can get a bunch of fucking costumes for the characters and buy the costumes and alternate outfits or camos for the weapons, smart shit, they decided to essentially remove the concept of yellow orbs, which are your continue option, and all of your healing items are essentially gone. There is only the green orb. So you have two choices: spend red orbs or spend real money to get more continues or revives, as well as trigger the holy water effect without having the holy water item, which is still fucking dumb. The fact that you didn't have that as a con blows my mind. But yeah, they tried to manipulate us into spending money by removing the concept of items from the game in its essence.
Generally, Faust is also a whole opposite of what you talked about. It's first what you spoke of, getting us to get into microtransactions, but it's also the counter to that argument, because it has moves where you can farm red orbs with, and you can farm a lot of red orbs. I just think it's a very creative and smart way the devs snuck in something that bypasses you going ahead and buying orbs from the store. And regarding the whole talk of reviving with red orbs and whatnot, taking away the items and all that, I don't really think that's that relevant for me personally, because, I never die. I'm that good at the game. but
I mean, that's cool. But
true honesty,
I was trying to go through all the cons, like I let you go through all your pros and cons.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry for intercepting. I guess I would forget all the points. Yeah, go ahead. Go through all the cons, I guess. That's much better.
Okay, so
Okay.
I can tell that there's obviously an attempt at microtransaction manipulation, but also, there's what the developer himself said, or the lead director said, and it made no sense, and it contradicted exactly what he said he was trying to do. He wanted to streamline how people play the game and how they control the characters. How the fuck does taking out items streamline anything? If you know, streamlining an item would mean you put the items on the D-pad, or there's a button that lets you use the items in real time. He didn't fucking do that. That would have been an example of streamlining, in which case Bayonetta already did that. So I knew then that he was obviously covering for the developer. It's the same way that there's microtransactions that came out about 2 weeks after Resident Evil 4 Remake did, and the developers and directors who did all these interviews never mentioned it and literally have not said anything about it at all to my knowledge since its development. It was just because somebody, either the producers or Capcom execs, said, hey, you're doing this, figure out which ones people are going to actually buy and put them in, and it just came out looking extremely disingenuous, insincere, and a little bit just insulting of intelligence of the consumer. But to be fair, it's 2024. The average consumer automatically goes in assuming that they're probably going to get backstabbed on some level. It's kind of sad, but true.
Yeah.
So, other than that, as previously mentioned, we share this con, and that is there is no ability even after you complete the game to naturally play every single stage as every single playable character without the use of a fucking PC mod.
Yep.
That is so painfully stupid. Another con, the fact that Capcom had the audacity to use the bullshit reasoning of, oh, well, the way the games were programmed in Gen 1 of PlayStation 5 don't always have the ability to correlate and transfer over data is fucking dumb. I should not have to beat Devil May Cry 5 all the way the fuck over again to be able to go and play and get all the things that I previously unlocked just because I changed to a different system so I can play fucking Vergil. My Devil May Cry 5 save file makes it look like I've never played any other character but Vergil. No, I played everybody on my PlayStation 4 version.
I see.
So now here I am.
Upgrade.
There was no data transfer.
Yeah,
So-
I see.
Yeah, it's the same with Control. Even if you get the PS5 version of Control, your PS4 data will not function. It's so fucking dumb.
It's messed up.
Yeah, so that is a genuine problem for me. That was one of the biggest cons that you could have. Now, as far as, when it comes to special editions, one of the main things people look for is more playable characters when it comes to Devil May Cry. You hear special edition, you hear special new playable guy. Here's the problem, we only got one. You already tried to plan out making and implementing the utilization of the female characters. Then to top it off, you even leave data in the game's files so we know it's there. Now, I've heard different people say conflicting things, even on the programming level, as to why data mining finds so much shit in video games. And sometimes they're right, sometimes it's an assumption, a popular assumption of the consumer, and sometimes there's legitimate reason. The problem is no game developer is going to tell you the legitimate reason because you weren't even supposed to deal with it, or you weren't even supposed to find it. I get that. Here's my problem. Even if there was no data leaks, you knew damn well people were going to want to play other characters besides Dante and Vergil. There is, to this day, there is no logical reason why the characters in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, which you started on right before 5, couldn't be a direct transfer into Devil May Cry 5. And I don't mean as far as the story. I don't mean as far as getting new weapons. I mean literally you could have made them secret characters, no canon story, just like you did last time.
True.
There was no reasoning. The lack of inclusion of Lady Lucia, I give them 50-50. Lady and fucking Trish is a goddamn problem because there was no logical reason why they couldn't think to do it, because they literally just finished making the fucking thing and went directly into the other one. So my other con, this unnecessary and somewhat hidden, either direct or indirect disrespect of Dante. Now we could go into a lot of things and a lot of suspicious activities, but I'm gonna just make some things very, very clear and important. It's been a well-known fact that from the beginning of Devil May Cry 4, there was an objective attempt at removing Dante as the title character unnecessarily.
Yes.
Yeah, unnecessarily by Hideki Itsuno.
What?
Luckily, the producer fixed this problem. However, even when before we even found out about that, even during his first interviews, he made it sound like Dante was gone, or he was only an enemy character, which nobody fucking wanted. So he had to do a retraction of his statement and an explanation saying that no, Dante is still in the game. So kudos to the producer for realizing trying to remove Dante would be a fucking problem.
Shit.
Now, going on in years, other weird and suspicious statements have been made that don't necessarily indicate that Itsuno hates the people who play and portray Dante and all that shit, but he has some type of issue with Dante being either the main character or the character that is considered the most fun and interesting. It's weird. There have been a bunch of things that have happened and that he said, and they can be easily interpreted as he seems to have some type of issue with Dante being the most popular character. However, like I said, I'm not going to sit up here and say for certain he has a problem with Dante, but based on things he said and how Dante's been portrayed, it seems like there may be some type of issue with Dante. But I do not like specifically how Dante's portrayed in 5. For no reason at all, he looks dirty, unkempt, and unwashed. There was no reason for him to be unconscious, I think they said for a week. And also, if Dante was unconscious, how the fuck did he not shit and piss himself? But that's a whole nother mess of shit. And on top of it, for no reason at all, even though they obviously have a problem with Dante being called a quote-unquote gay cowboy, which the original developer of DMC Zero stated, and all this other shit in a room full of people who did fucking nothing. Let me be clear. He stated multiple times he enjoyed working on it and the development of that title. So then here comes Dante putting on a cowboy hat and then dancing like Michael Jackson for some reason. Well, it's not really a cowboy hat, I guess. You know, it's more of a whatever the fuck the type of hat Michael. No, there's a name for it, but whatever that Frank Sinatra, Michael Jackson type hat is called. There's just some things that don't seem. It just seems uniquely suspicious. Maybe there was a small point in time where he had a problem with Dante, but when he got to development of 5, he kept making random statements and comments that made it seem like he purposely wanted Nero to look or feel more important.
That's new to me.
Yeah, it was weird. 5, one of the cons. Okay, so I'm gonna just come out and say it. The level design, we already beat that dead horse to the point where it's got an airtime stylish combo, so we're done with it. But no, the level design is a problem, but it's not a problem because I think it looks ugly and suspicious. I have a problem with it because there's no effort put into it. Yes, you did show more actual real world settings under demonic influence, and I thank you for that. But that's not the problem. Now the problem is you can't do anything except look at new shit. That's it. Oh, I'm in a train station. Okay, well, let me get on one of the trains or let the train get derailed while I'm fighting enemies. Nope, all that shit happened before you even started the stage. Oh, let me get on one of them double-decker buses, knock somebody through the ceiling, or if I fight on top of it, let me knock them off or run them over. Nope, these are all stationary images. So my problem is the lack of creative interactions, as we've already mentioned, with the environment, and also the next con, environment types. We already seen the hell angle. You've been doing it since Devil May Cry 1. Everything looks like the inside of a throat, which looks like other things, but we already know. And then also a con, destructible objects that don't give you any type of green or red orbs. What the fuck? That was weird. Yeah. There are so many destructible items. There is literally, one of our friends sat down and counted. There's over like 100 destructible objects that the player would normally expect to give you red orbs or have a random item in them, and they're completely empty. It's almost as if they were going to put items in them in the first place, but someone above them said, don't do it. Right. To try to increase microtransaction purchases. Like I said, some things are cons and some things just look sus. Dante's weaponry is both a pro and a con. Here's where it becomes a con. Why the fuck is Rebellion there if you get rid of it? Why is that even there? If I get to turn my sword into the Devil's Sword, Dante's sword, the Sword of Dante, we'll just call it the Sword of Dante because that sounds better. If we turn the sword, we get a new sword called the Sword of Dante. Why is it that when I beat the game, Rebellion is back? Rebellion does less damage, has less features and functionality, and essentially doesn't really seem to serve a fucking purpose. Now, let's move into the guns, okay? The double cleaner and is cool. Nobody has a problem with that. But you started the idea of having secret weapons. I like that. Why did you stop? Why was that the only secret weapon? I personally wanted everyone to have a secret weapon, especially Vergil. Let's see. Oh, cons for me. V's playstyle, and this is coming from someone who likes V. V's playstyle is a con because V's playstyle is so uniquely different that instead of being another version of combat that fits the solid gameplay, they obviously were meant to be experimental. And like I stated, they had the perfect layout with Chaos Legion. They even said in, I think, 2 interviews that people are reminded of Chaos Legion. They know what Chaos Legion is. They were working on Chaos Legion around the same time as fucking Devil May Cry 2 and 3 or Devil May Cry 3. Okay? So why in the actual fuck didn't you just fucking copy the gameplay? So V's gameplay style is not refined. Let me just say that, because I almost say, oh, V is terrible as character. No, his gameplay style is not refined. The story is a con to me because there's too many things that go unanswered unnecessarily. And they're too easily misinterpreted, which was a problem with Bayonetta 3. It's ironic that Devil May Cry 5, story-wise, has like the exact same problems as Bayonetta 3. Yeah. It starts making sense until the characters have to do character development or show depth. That's when we have a fucking problem because it's not done correctly. Let's see. Nero's entire fucking combat layout. And I don't mean the weapons that he gets, mostly. I mean the actual controller layout. Nero has too much shit on his controller layout that needs to be simplified or refined. So he has the same problem as V, but for the opposite reasons. I should not be, in no point in time in the history of video gaming, to my knowledge, is a transformation mapped to the D-pad. A menu shows up and you select the option to transform on the D-pad, but no one is, to my knowledge, in the history of video gaming, set the default button for a transformation to the D-pad.
Yeah.
That should let you know that your shit is fucked up. That should be the main indicator right there. Okay? Nero's biggest issue is that Nero has unnecessary devil arms, which still kind of sort of lead a lot of people to believe that this is one format or way to try to get microtransactions processed into the game, because you're spending red orbs on more things than normal. But to be fair, you got more characters than normal. My issue is just that, first off, he's the only character who somehow has a item that's breakable, which goes into that paradoxical flying in the face of the bullshit statement of, oh, we wanted to be streamlined, so we wanted to get rid of items. Nero literally has items. You made a whole trailer showing off items. So I'm just like, fuck that shit. Like, you obviously are covering for somebody. And I say that as someone who respects him. So the way I'm looking at it, that all of that shit need to go. What needs to happen is Nero needs to essentially get a style button. But his style button is essentially just a make my devil form or a fragment of my devil form do this thing that I used to do with these items that Nico made for me. Because here's something that still doesn't make any sense. When Nero gets his arm back, how the fuck is he wearing all of these items? Because remember, he could only wear them because he was in a Barrett situation. His arm, his forearm and up is missing. So it's a slot and locking mechanism. Okay? Now here's a problem with that. He gets his arm back. The whole entire thing. They acknowledge it. They show it. So how in the fuck is he still able to wear that shit? Now I know you mentioned earlier, video games like to play fuck it sometimes. I get that. I understand that. That's not my problem. My problem is this is what I meant earlier about the story having issues. You told me something and you explained why something works because of something you set up in the same game, and here I am at the end of the game, and now you made the thing you said in the beginning of the game not even fucking apply or make sense anymore. Now, if it was the one devil arm that she made for him at the end of the game, I would understand it. So essentially that means that somehow Nero's arm disappears and it cuts itself off for him to utilize these weapons. What? This is what I mean. And this goes to my next con. Verisimile, dysfunctional verisimile. Now I know a lot of people don't know that word, but they know what it means once I explain it to them. So okay. Verisimile is the belief or the ability for a story to explain something coherently based on the rules set forth by the narrative. What the fuck does that mean? That basically means, does something make sense based on the type of story that you're being told? Does it make sense for the world and lore that you're in? That's what it means. Now, in the world of video gaming, verisimile damn near doesn't exist. If you have a good game that's meant to like try to be hyper realistic and the goal is to tell you a good story, or it's a horror shit like Silent Hill, okay. Verisimile is damn near perfect in Silent Hill 2. Now, here's the problem with Devil May Cry's verisimile. Everything. Now, we already touched on earlier the devil arms and what little sense they make when you get to the motorcycle one. That's somewhat excusable for the most part. But here we are we're in the exact same game that they show us Nero gets his hand cut off. I'm sorry, not even cut off. It somehow got ripped off, but it looked like a slash, which was weird to me. His whole entire arm from the socket gets taken off. Okay, well, let me ask you something. How the fuck did Nero's arm turn into Yamato? That makes no sense. Now, moving forward, what did they introduce that Nero learned how to do? Devil Bringer. What is Devil Bringer? It is a demon form, or essentially it is the soul of a devil trigger. It's a partial fragment of a devil trigger that Nero has control over. Okay? Where the fuck did it go the entirety of Devil May Cry 5? Theoretically, they could say that it was because all of his demonic energy was basically compressed into that arm. Because Nero, essentially, according to the lore of Devil May Cry, in a cutscene that we don't even see, we hear sounds of it. Nero literally did not have any demonic essence or presence in his life until a giant incident happened and he got that arm, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But they don't even explain that that's why he can't do Devil Bringer anymore. Also, he got his arm back, right? If he got his arm back, why the fuck is Devil Bringer still going?
True.
Oh wait, no, Devil Bringer is still here. It's just that it's inside, it's still here, except now it's just an arm. It has an energy arm and that's it. You see what I mean? That's verisimile. They keep explaining something narratively, they give an explanation of something, but then they do something that contradicts it, that breaks their own story, and they'll do it in the same damn game.
I see.
So when you start, Devil May Cry 5, these weapons work because they have demonic energy and influence, and Nero has some way to trigger them without directly putting his hand on it, right? So that means there has to be a system built into his arm, which we see, for him to be able to utilize those weapons. He gets his arm back. How the fuck are you still utilizing all of them?
True. Now I see what you mean.
Yeah, that's verisimile. Devil May Cry.
Verisimile.
Yeah, but Devil May Cry, well, most video games have some level of dysfunctional verisimile, or no, there's not a verisimile check. But Devil May Cry 5 and 4, or by a collection, they take it to different levels for different reasons. Like the special edition, the opening with Vergil. That's supposed to be teenage Vergil. He looked like a 30-year-old buff dude. Most people didn't even know it was 15 years ago because Capcom fucked up and they broke one of the first cardinal rules of the English language with subtitles. Like one of the most written and unwritten rules. Do not make your text the same color as the background of which they are being displayed on. Chameleon text. That's the nickname I have for it. It's when your text is almost the same color as the background. So when you actually first started, a lot of people don't know this, the bottom of the screen in that gray asphalt that's blurred out says in a gray color, the same color as that rock shit, 15 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah. But people don't know this because the way that it's set up, all you see is Vergil walking down the street with a bunch of cloth over his body. I'm like, I actually didn't catch it until someone told me about it a full year after Special Edition came out, that the bottom of the screen says 15 years ago. I'm like, what the fuck, Capcom? So like I said, that's one of the biggest cons. They need to pay better attention to their own coherent narrative.
You're right.
And yeah, and oh yeah, and this is a con I have for Devil May Cry 4 too. I'm gonna give a special shout out to the Clifod bosses. Fuck all y'all. Y'all not even hard. You're lame, boring, and you shouldn't be in the game. I hate the first boss because the first boss is stupid. I'm offended by this. The first boss. The first boss, bro.
So like the roots?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want you to name them for the sake of clarity. I want to know which one exactly.
I don't know the name of it. I just call it by its number. The first boss. And the second one, which is I don't know if that's the first boss for V. But the Clifod thing, the Clifod virus that V fights, both of those, Needhog, both of those were some of the dumbest and easiest bosses, and I was offended that they were Devil May Cry bosses. Same with Burial. They keep trying to imply that Nero has got some type of super strength bullshit going on, or that he has strength to rival Dante, when in fact, at no point in time in the entire history of the franchise did they properly show that, nor did it ever look like it by their own cutscenes. But Burial was stupidly easy. He just has a giant sword he hits you with, or he explodes some fire. What? That's it? Yeah. And he's supposed to be the son of Mundus? By the way, apparently people didn't even notice that because, again, they have trouble with their own narrative. Apparently Burial is like the son of Mundus.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it is what it is. And the nightmare that you deal with in Devil May Cry 5 is supposed to be technically the same nightmare that's in Devil May Cry 1. But obviously, they're completely different. So I think how it was supposed to be explained in an interview was that the nightmare is different because the nightmare that they made initially doesn't really have the ability to move around, or it couldn't fit in a stage the normal way if he was still in that same form. So they just said, oh, nightmare evolves and progresses over time. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Let's see, what am I missing? We already said the fact that you can't play all the characters in all the stages. And a con, I guess you can buy the super forms of every fucking character as DLC. I consider that a con. I'm not fucking joking. And it's like $3. It's not even expensive.
Wait, remind me, can't you unlock these when you beat DMD?
Yeah. Or you could give them $3. And they give you all of them too.
Oh, I see. So you just hate the fact that they're kind of purchasable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that actually just, that bothered me because first off, Devil May Cry's, and this is my final con, there's never any rewards for, there's no new rewards for beating the game. No secret weapons like in Bayonetta. No new playable characters. It's just, oh, you finally beat the highest difficulty? Here's your super form. Okay.
Oh my God.
Well, you did that in Devil May Cry 1 back in 2000. And here's Devil May Cry 5 in 2018 going into 2019. Would you like to share something with the class? Because that's all we got, homie.
For this
Which
video?
is why... No. I'm talking... No, I'm just making fun of Capcom. No, I'm just saying like this... That's something that fucking bothers me. Is like, it's not that we only get that. It's that's all we've been getting for 20 plus years. Devil May Cry released in 2000. So for 24 years, we've been getting Infinite Devil Trigger.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's about it.
Bro,
the meme
2,
the meme
you had 4 different weapons you could get.
Yeah, true. You know, I'm just thinking about it right now. You just get meme difficulties for Devil May Cry, and that's the perfect word for it. Meme difficulties. Yeah, the hell.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now. Yeah, because I told you, like, hey, look, oh man, Zach, you good at this stuff. How come you never do Hell and Hell? It's like, I'm gonna tell you exactly why I never do Hell and Hell. Number one, can I play it with Infinite Devil Trigger? If the answer is yes, then there was no point in making this mode because now it's Heaven and Hell 2.0. Yeah. Now, the second reason, you don't get anything for doing it. The only thing you get is a special congratulations screen. Something I can get an image picture of on Google. So, yeah, that's like, I don't like how little reward there is for beating this. When I beat the VR missions in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you know what I got? I got Infinite Limit Break. You know what I get? You know what else I get? I also can get more special skill points, which means I can actually max out my character's stat modifiers for the entire game. That's what I get when I do that shit, right?
Yeah.
And here's Devil May Cry, a game that is extremely shorter, obviously, than fucking Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And for 24 years, the only thing I can get is Infinite Devil Trigger. Unless you play Special Edition. Oh my God, that pissed me off. And I don't even think it pissed me off because they did it. It pissed me off because they acknowledged they did it and weren't going to fix it. You know how annoying that is? You know you did it. You told me you did it and you're not going to fix it.
Yep.
Bro, I literally said, I don't know if he still works at Capcom, but there's one of their admins or ambassadors. This dude's named Grega, man. He literally has an office, and he's an official employee. I went into their actual forum and website, and I said, hey, Greg, man, there's a glitch issue with Devil May Cry Special Edition. I'm wondering if it's possible you could get something sent up to channel to get it fixed. I'm not trying to like make some special demand. I mean, this is an actual legitimate flaw that I found. Oh, well, go ahead and talk to me, man. What is it? I'll see what I can do. Your Infinity Devil Trigger does not actually work on Trish, who arguably it should have been pre-installed because Trish is a demon in human skin, literally.
Okay.
And they was like, oh yeah, you caught us, yeah. Unfortunately, we did not implement that, and I can understand the confusion. So I'm like, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, like, okay, cool. So are you gonna fix it? It seems like it would be a simple patch. Then the motherfucker never answered.
That's messed up.
Ain't that some shit? So the only way to play Infinite Devil Trigger Trish, I shit you not, is if you get the Devil May Cry 4 PC version, then get a PC mod that gives it to you.
Mods, man.
Yeah. Capcom makes decisions with Devil May Cry that are so easy to fix that the PC modders do it, and then they just somehow don't think to fix it when they get to the next title.
I mean, they got with Devil May Cry 5. They were like, why even bother with a special edition when modders are gonna add things in? They literally fed into the meme. They didn't even have a special edition for PC. They were like, fuck it. Modders make shit.
That's where there's a problem, because depending on the title or depending on the franchise, shit doesn't add up. Because you and I both know Devil May Cry needed a training mode a long time ago. A long time ago. DMC 0 came out, and the word around and the leaked information, the leaked rumor was that depending on which Devil May Cry re-release does better, they're going to go and continue the franchise with that version of Devil May Cry.
Yeah, right.
Now, obviously, they wanted to continue Special Edition because, first off, compare and contrast what you get in both games. So that means that theoretically, we're going to get a training mode in Special Edition. Nope.
Nothing.
Yep. Or because the technology is so much better, they're going to do a bonus mode where, you know, you can go and play every stage co-op. Nope. What do the PC mods do? Exactly that. Now we get to 5. Oh, well, they're going to remember to give Dante the ability to run up walls. I'm not sure how the fuck he forgot to do that. If he can remember how to air dash. Nope. Okay, well, at least we got training mode. Oh, yeah, let's do the co-op thing. Yeah, but let's not put in an offline version. Let's only do online co-op. Are you fucking serious, bro? You literally saw the answers to the test and decided, you know what's a good idea? I'm going to stab my eyes out so when it's time to do the test, I can just scribble down anything. I've said it. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Capcom is its best friend and worst enemy.
Yeah, right.
All right, so let me ask you something. If you were in charge of the production of Devil May Cry 6, how would you design the game?
Okay, just one quick thing before we get to that. You reminded me of some cons that I left out. I'm not going to list a lot of them, but these two are very, very big. First is not that insanely big, but you reminded me of it. Is simply the lack of costumes. It's just recolors is what we have in the game.
Oh my god, yes.
Like there are no.
I mean, I know I mentioned it, but I thought I was the only one.
Yeah, you reminded me by talking about some purchasable stuff and all that. I'm amazed that there are no costumes that you can buy. Like actual costumes, not recolors.
Bro, the only person who has a fucking costume, and it still blows my mind, the only person who actually has a different costume in every Devil May Cry game they've been in is fucking Nero. Nero by himself, and it pisses me off.
I mean, in 5, isn't it just a recolor?
No. He gets an outfit designed. He gets a outfit designed after the Holy Order that he never technically joined. But they keep the hood and the coat, and they just throw in some Holy Order design effects. So technically, it's a different costume. Technically.
I see.
Yeah. And in the previous game, Special Edition, you know, he got his concept art outfit. So he actually got a different outfit.
Oh, okay. So only Nero.
Which still pisses me off.
still pisses me off. Now the second con is a sin. It's a sin. It's not a con. I'm about to get offensive here. How do you lock a Cavalier move behind a store purchase?
That made no sense, bro. I honestly think that they did it on an accident, and nobody at the company realized it, or the person who programmed it stopped working for Capcom, so they just chose not to fix it instead of hiring a third party to fix it. Bro, it makes literally no sense. He has an air stinger with a motorcycle, and somehow, because it's not painted red, he can't fucking do it anymore?
You lock a move out of Bloody Palace, period. Unless, again, of course, you have a PC mod.
I literally to this day have not seen an explanation as to why that is.
What leaderboards? Leaderboards? Is that the reason why it's not in Bloody Palace? How do you not fix that in a special edition?
Bro, now you know how I feel every time I see Trish not playable.
Insane. And like, then it gets me talking more. Why can't we edit the color of Cavalier in general? Like, Cavalier art looks so beautiful. It's red and all that, but man, let's just move on to your question. Honestly,
you know what? Fuck it. We're upgrading cons. Now we got sins. Here's my sin. Why can I never recolor things? I would love to be able to recolor Dante's outfit, or recolor Dante's weapons, or get exotic camo DLC outfits, or exotic camo DLC weapons. That is a sin, goddammit. Can you imagine playing playing Vergil, but he has 0 Z Saber? Oh my god.
That would have been insane. Come on, imagine red summon sword.
But Nero can get a fucking bullshit ass Mega Buster. He can get a Mega Buster.
Imagine Dante, the colors for V.
Oh my god, bro! But Dante can't get an X Buster. Dante can't get the Z Saber, the old Z Saber, and then let Vergil get the new Z Saber from Mega Man Zero. Bro, missed opportunity. Let him get an Onimusha sword. Man.
Guess what fixes all that, Mr. Zax?
I know PC mods, but here's my problem I have only one problem with Devil May Cry PC mods, and I literally mean one problem. I can never find someone to pay to make the shit that I want. I know that there's a Vergil mod for, a Sephiroth mod for Vergil, but I can't find it. I've seen videos of it. I even left a message, hey, can you please tell me where you got this Sephiroth mod? I even tried Google. I can't fucking find it.
Mods are amazing, man.
And I'm mad someone turned Nero into fucking Cloud Strife, but there's no mod to turn Dante into fucking Cloud Strife.
Like, just quality of life things or cosmetic things mods are amazing. You've had bad experiences, what you're gonna say. Because, of course, like, even your Nero Devil Trigger story is just still funny to me. How you went up to
Where's Devil Bringer?
8
is Devil Bringer going? Is Devil Bringer going? Can he do both? Bro, it makes no fucking sense anymore.
Why does he have wings?
Bro, because that's easy. I'm sure you already know this, but the lack of creativity by the designer of Devil May Cry is kind of sort of famous to an extent. But the very short answer as to why Nero's Devil Trigger looks like that is because Hideki Itsuno remembered that Johnny Young Bosch is also Ichigo. So he decided to base the entirety of the Devil Trigger off of Hollow Ichigo.
Look, I like the design. It looks angelic, and thank you for the lore share. Looks angelic when compared to the other Devil Triggers and all that. I was just talking from your perspective. Why does Nero have wings? Why doesn't he have the Devil Bringer? I can DT with the D-pad?
Oh yeah. Well, I hate to say it, but that was actually the actual answer. It was just because he saw Vastolord or whatever hollow form of Ichigo, and he said, you know what, let's design it based off of this.
So I guess now we move on to your other question that you asked, how I would design Devil May Cry 6.
Yes.
To put it I was about to say simply. To put it simply, all the above that we just talked about feeds into what I want Devil May Cry 6 to be. Pretty much, this first thing is that you don't agree with me about this one, by the way. The first one is have less playable characters. in order to have more complex enemies. If you make more playable characters, you have less complex enemies to compensate for a lot of characters. So that's the first one. Have less playable characters. Have more complex enemies that compensate for our complexity in the gameplay. This is a very, very important one. I talked about a lot. We talked about a lot in the above. No need to go over it in the nitty gritty again. Have game switching sections. Again, as I said, platformers, whatever. I'm not asking for puzzles. If there are puzzles, they better be teaching me some combat things. Same with platforming. Doom Eternal. Have you played that game? So you've seen the platforming sections in that game, right? Someone could make the argument that these teach you really nicely about combat maneuvers. Stuff like this in Devil May Cry 5 would be very, very good. Number 4, for what I would design in Devil May Cry 6 better, would be the level design. Just generally the thing we talked about with the gothic art approach, and just generally have more diversity rather than just, as you said, the inside of a throat, and all that. And the last thing, how I would design a Devil May Cry 6 is have better stage design. Stage hazards, actual interactives other than red barrels, ring outs, enemy on enemy crime, which is a thing in Devil May Cry 5. It's very, very well done. It's the friendly fire that the enemies can do on each other. But have more stage interactabilities, have more openness or weirdness. It's already a sandbox when it comes to comboing and all that. Make it more so with how you interact with the stage. Give me a fucking pit that I can throw enemies at that they instantly die in or something. Some creative way that I can try out. That's honestly what I would, how I would design Devil May Cry 6. What we basically talked about in the above. That's literally it. Devil May Cry 5, but with better enemies, better stage design, and generally better level design. Also, quality of life game design choices, like allowing me to play one character throughout the entirety of the story. Less characters, please. That's about it.
Okay, so for me, I got it somewhat compressed, but I also know it's kind of hard to not complain, because here's the biggest issue I've had with 5 with my friends, is that they don't want to hear me not so much complain. They don't perceive the things that I hate as bad. For every one thing that we agree is shit, the next 5 they'll disagree. So then I can't really have a conversation with them about it. Not because I'm like, oh, you disagree with me, how dare you, fuck you. No, because they don't perceive it as a negative. So for me, I think I got them compressed into 5. Number 1, Dante will be respected as a main character. There is no more of this, oh, we want to switch Dante out, or we want someone else to be the main character. You want someone else to be the main character, don't call it Devil May Cry. Play the Mega Man game. Now, we all know how the Mega Man game works. If it's called Mega Man is the main character. If it's not called Mega Man is a different person is the main character. If it's called Devil May Cry, Dante's the MC. If it's called Devil May Cry X or Devil May Cry 0, I don't care who the main character is. Dante would be nice, but respect the main character, period. Who is Dante? Number 2, actual legitimate rewards and bonuses for completion of different difficulties. Bonus weapons, bonus characters, whether they're story relevant or not. Okay? And do it for every single difficulty.
I see.
One less difficulty. Currently in the Devil May Cry, there is 7 difficulties. Go down to 6. Number 4, have an actual professional writer with a writing degree, a creative writing degree, write the story for Devil May Cry 6. And I stand by that.
Okay.
Now the final thing. Creative stage design and interactive environments that all characters can go through. Let's say, for example, 3 playable characters, 20 missions. For every 1 mission, your character is solo. The next one, there's 2 people. Doesn't matter which 2 get mixed and matched together, but there's 2 people, right?
Right.
Now, that means half solo act, half team up. Doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3, depending on how many characters base playable. You gonna sit up here and and make it offline too. If you did that, I honestly feel like for the first time in my life, we would have a perfect Devil May Cry game.
I see.
And I don't use that term loosely. I do not.
When it comes
no.
Yeah.
No, I mean in general. I don't use that term. Yeah, I don't use that term loosely because every single Devil May Cry, we gain something and we lose something. Devil May Cry 1, we gained the knowledge of what could be the future of beat 'em ups, hack and slashes, and action games in general. We got a glimpse of what it could be. Devil May Cry 2, we lost quality. Devil May Cry 3, we gained a good, complete, easy to understand and still deep story with a little bit of darkness. And we lost essentially nothing. Devil May Cry 3 was like lightning in a bottle. It was nothing but a gain. Everything,
the best.
Despite, which is weird because you and I both know the development was a shit show. Everything that could have gone wrong behind the scenes literally did go wrong in Devil May Cry fucking 2. Then they go into 3. There's still issues, but there's a vision, there's a direction. Nothing essentially went wrong with Devil May Cry 3. Now, we go into 4. We lost the concept of who the fucking protagonist was because there was an honest-to-God attempt by the fucking director of the game to remove the character that they just launched into stardom. Because let's be honest, Dante was cool. Dante was considered a decent character, and he was very popular. But it ballooned when we get to 3. Because Devil May Cry 3 did something almost no action game did. It had a wealth and healthy fan base of female fans. When we get to 3, the females showed up. So now we got a new demographic looking at Devil May Cry because of one character. They weren't coming for Vergil, they were coming for Dante. So when you get to 4, what do we lose? We lost the concept of a complete and coherent, logical story with very little verisimility issues.
True.
Some people did not, and Dan Southworth has even said it himself. Some people did not even realize that Nero was Dante's nephew, even after the game had been out for years. Like, I was in the room one of the times when he said, I was like, I don't even know why he's surprised. Like, just because, video games don't require a high intellect on paper don't mean that fucking stupid people are going to magically get smarter. If you're not paying attention, you're not paying attention. The first thing they tell you when he tells him to keep Yamato is like, keep the Yamato. It belongs to a son of Sparta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm still offended that... Yeah, and then also, I'm offended that Nero was so stupid in 5. He had to tell him, he's your father. Hey, dumbass. If he told you that it's family business and he wants to take care of him, why didn't you go, well, if I'm Sparta's grandson, is he my uncle too? Like, it was just so stupid how they tried to play it off like Nero somehow can't put 2 and 2 together. But to be fair, there's no actual consistency on if Nero is stupid or if Nero is smart. Mm-hmm. But apparently he's got some mechanical engineering because remember, he modified the Red Queen himself. So at some point in time, he modified the Red Queen himself and the Blue Rose or whatever his gun is called. And I'm just like, okay, so this teenage boy is just given a big ass gun like he's in North America with some of the highest caliber you can get in a handgun. And then he made it a double barrel. And on top of that shit, he also modified a sword that's at least at a minimum 4.8 if not 5 feet long. And nobody fucking confiscated it. That's what I'm saying. Like, look, how is he dumb and smart at the same time? So, yeah, I think if we did what I said, that would be the closest we got to a perfect Devil May Cry. Because my first thing was, well, what makes me like Bayonetta 2 more than almost the entire Devil May Cry franchise? And it wasn't, ooh, she's tall and she's pretty. Yes, I do like tall women. Yes, I do like pretty women. But that's not why. That has nothing to do with it. It's because I am rewarded in Bayonetta 2.
It is what it is. I guess it's much better to just not take it that deeply. Like, let's just now slowly move on to the next question. Or if you have other thoughts about how you would design DMC6.
The only thing I would say is an optional is, based on what I have, that's a complete package. Meaning there's no DLC. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking microtransactions, but DLC is important because a lot of people don't realize this. When you make a sale of a physical video game in most countries and continents, the developers are getting back barely a double-digit amount of money. Like, they're lucky if they get back a full 20. Right? So, that means the majority of profit is going to come from post-transactional sales. That means DLCs, microtransactions, that type of shit. Guest stars. There is no reason. Morgan from Darkstalkers, the Onimusha 4 version of Samanosuke, Zero, both zeros by the way, Mega Man Zero, Mega Man X Zero, can't be guest stars. No one said they have to have a canonical explanation. How is the Mega Buster there? Explain that shit. Hell, I'll even take Strider. I want guest stars. Can you imagine if Cloud Strife, Tifa Lockhart, and Barrett or Sephiroth were guest stars in a Devil May Cry game? I would literally lose my shit. I would have to hire a detective to find my shit because I'm gonna lose it.
I see what you like then.
Or alternatively, a prequel saga. Make it be like 5, maybe 10 hours long. Let us explore the final moments of Sparta. Because here's the thing. Supposedly, Sparta didn't die because someone beat his ass. He went out with no L's. So he died of old age. So why not show Sparta, reminiscing about various fights and combats he's gotten into with his wife because she's a witch, and make those two temporarily playable for like 4 or 5 hours, reminiscing about various times in their life. You don't have to make a whole hub world. And the cutscenes change and show you Dante and Vergil running around being children. And then Sparta feels like his heart is slowing down or something. And Sparta, based on the species of demon that he is, he knows, okay, this is how I know I'm going to die. Like he's dying of old age. And, he slowly just sits on his porch or looks out a balcony in his room or something, and he just stares at the sun and he just thinks about everything he's done. We see a bunch of random ass images. We don't know what they could mean. And then he says something like, I don't know where I go when a demon dies, but I hope I get to apologize to my daughter. Boom, credits.
Or he's a twink. Nah, look, the story with Mundus has all the possibilities it can take. It would be interesting if we get a prequel for DMC6 as Sparta, like literally Sparta.
But like I said, a very, very small amount, because here's the thing. Officially, Sparta has no voice actor. But he's one of the most important characters. His name is said in every game, and his weapons are usually the most powerful.
Like that way, you could kind of reinvent how you approach the combat. Styling. It's not going to be Dante. It's not going to be Vergil. It's not going to be anyone. It's going to be purely Sparta. And he's going to have Dante elements. He's going to have Vergil elements. He's going to have actual Sparta elements. That would be interesting. You never know. Maybe because powers he would have that would set up DMC7. You never know.
Yeah, and you know what? They could give him something unique. Give him actual legitimate super strength.
Yeah.
So instead of just, make him basically Dante, but he's got the finisher elements of Nero. But instead of him just using his hands, he could do the finisher with his weapons.
Imagine the last boss fight against Mundus. How insane that would be.
Yeah, because remember, Sparta alone is strong enough to fell an army of demons. Or just make it so his shit plays like a Dynasty Warriors bullshit. Make it a Dynasty Warriors middle game. I don't fucking care. But
sky's the
bro,
limit.
but it's just, I really hate the idea that we're on game number 5 and every character who needs a prequel doesn't get one. Technically, the only character who got a prequel is Mary. You know how fucking hilarious that is? Mary got a prequel. Mary's story goes from beginning, middle, and end. Mary, aka Lady. Hers is the only story. Hers is the only origin story that has a beginning, middle, and end. She was a regular high school girl. Her dad got involved with the occult and demonic or energy and stuff, even though he was a reverend. He had an addiction to power and authority and control. Ironically, a lot of previous religious people have addictions to power, authority, and control, and they abused it. Then he realizes, oh shit, I married the descendant of one of the sacrifices that Sparta used to separate the demon world and the human world, right? So that means my daughter's blood, my wife's blood is special, but I'm not going to kill my daughter, right? The main reason Lady even lives, is Vergil implied, is because he loved her too much to kill her. She has a complete origin story. Dante, one day my family got broken up because of some incident that we literally never see. We don't know who takes care of Dante. We don't know where he ran off to and everything that happened afterwards. Same with Vergil. Vergil just was running around butt-ass naked with the Yamato until his double trigger kicked in, and we don't know where the fuck he went after their house got burnt down and shit. Like, no one filed a missing persons report and shit. But also, the kids got super strength, so are you really going to be able to catch them? And then, magically, they find each other 8 years later or 10 years later, depending on what the continuity decides. And then all of a sudden, they want to kill each other? Bro, they should be hugging and crying and shit. Like, they didn't hate each other before then. They should be hugging and crying and shit.
I guess it was the misunderstanding of Vergil. Vergil thought his mother saved Dante and abandoned him. It's kind of explained in the story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even explained in the games that he thinks that way. So
that's why he kind of goes off like that.
Yeah, and then to top it off, when did he learn and who was teaching him demon magic shit? Nobody has a complete origin story except for fucking Lady. And about a fourth of it is only in writing and not in a novel.
Yeah, I see. So
if I do DLC, DLC, my basic idea would be DLC, go and completely tell somebody's story. Please.
That would be interesting, okay.
Dante was a fucking mercenary.
I see. So
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No. That was it. So I guess for number 7, if you knew Capcom was going to see this, or rather the summary of this video, the epilogue, if you will, what's something you would say to them like right now? Like if Capcom was a person making Devil May Cry, what would you say to them?
So if Capcom saw this basic last 3 hours from now, if they saw the last 3 hours,
if they saw this entire video, yes. Obviously, I'm gonna edit it before it goes up.
Oh no, I know. So if Capcom sees this right now, the point is not that your franchise is bad or yada yada yada. We all make mistakes and all that. My main biggest thing is for Devil May Cry 6 right now. So what is your aspiration for Devil May Cry 6? I suppose here's what I have to say. You did it. Devil May Cry 5 succeeded. Devil May Cry 5 sold like hotcake. Devil May Cry 5 brought in all the casual audience you wanted to bring for your combat system. Now is your time. Now is your chance to make Devil May Cry 6. I know it's Suno left, but this still leaves a big door for, possibilities that are untapped. Get experimental. Devil May Cry 5 was the easiest game of all time. It was a casual friendly game. It brought in all the new fans that you wanted to bring. It brought me into Devil May Cry. Heck, it's your chance now. Get experimental with 6. Make weird stuff. Make prequels. Make everything. You brought in new people. You brought them to the old Devil May Cry games. You brought them to the new Devil May Cry games. You have an anime coming up. Just look at yourself, young man. Look at how far you've come. that's about it. Get experimental with Devil May Cry 6. Just get all sorts of crazy. Make all sorts of game design choices. At this point, people know what Devil May Cry is. You don't need to bring new people to the franchise. Of course, it goes with the territory when you're making a game that you have to account for new people entering. Hence why you have Nintendo games nowadays just being casual friendly. You have every game doing that. Gaming is a business, whether we like it or not. But like, don't be too safe like Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 was way too safe. It depended a lot on nostalgia. It depended a lot on characters we already knew. It depended a lot on a lot of things, which I love it because it does it right. It doesn't just give you Cerberus weapon, right? It gives you a weapon that is way more diverse than the Cerberus. It doesn't give you this Cerberus boss fight all over again. You're fighting King Cerberus. He's switching positions. He's switching elements. Yeah, we said at the same time. Like, I love what they went with, but now is your chance to expand. If you want to focus on Nero, I'm all here for it. If you want to focus on Vergil and Dante again, even though you said the story is over, I'm all here for it. If you want to go way back with Sparta, even though some people might not want it, I'm all here for it. Everyone is here for it. Trust. You got easy with the MC5, you got safe with the MC5, go all out with the MC6, and that's all that I have to say for you.
Well, in my case, it would be a mix of, son, I am disappointed. But at the same time,
okay,
it's not a disappointed in you as being my son. I'm disappointed that you're making terrible decisions and you know how to make good ones. And the fact that you can't do it without me watching you, son. You know, how good or noble of a person are you if you only do the right thing when somebody's looking? Something my dad said to me once. Don't get me wrong, I didn't do nothing fucked up. He was saying it because, well, he had a friend who did some heinous shit, and he knew I knew about it. And I said to him, you know, why do you like him? Why is he your friend? And he's like, oh, son, not everybody who's noble is telling the truth. How noble are you? And then he said, how noble are you if you're only doing the right thing when someone's watching you? To that, something to that effect. And it stuck with me.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Capcom knows that people love Devil May Cry. They did an entire survey. One of the most popular games in that survey that they want to have, people want to have a sequel for, is Devil May Cry. So we already knew it was inevitable we would get a 6. Here's the problem though, that I have. Is it going to be a Devil May Cry for the fans, or is it going to be a Devil May Cry for extortion of the fans? They already removed items unless you're Nero. And on top of it, they made it so you could literally beat the game by literally throwing money at it instead of playing it. And I'm not speaking hyperbolically. Because one day I just said, you know what, let me hit this giant option for a full HP recovery when you get a game over. And it took like a fourth or 75% of the boss's HP. I thought to myself, oh my God, you can literally pay to win this whole entire game.
Yep.
Yeah. That shouldn't be possible in an action game, let alone a hack and slash action game. Let's recap. If I put quarters in Final Fight,
Okay.
if I put quarters in Streets of Rage and other shit like that, you and I both know. You and I both fucking know. There is no way in hell that game would be considered fun.
True.
But here we are in Devil May Cry, and because somebody in upper management, or even maybe the producer said, hey, I want to find a way to make DLC. Put microtransaction DLC in here because I want to keep making money off this. I'm like, you're going to make money off of royalties, residuals, and sales. You can't be happy with that? Then I thought about it. This is Capcom we're talking about. They want to pretend that they're not Electronic Arts until they become Electronic Arts.
Yeah.
And what does Electronic Arts love? Child gambling and any form of microtransactions they can think of. Yes. Devil May Cry somehow, it can go down a dark path. And I would tell Capcom, don't send Devil May Cry down a dark path, because you'll end up in a situation where you do everything right and you spend a lot of money on this game only for no one to buy it or everyone to torrent the game first. And depending on the microtransactions, never buy the shit.
Yeah,
None of that. I'm going to wait a week, and then after the week, we're going to load up all these microtransactions. The only thing that should happen after the first week of Devil May Cry is that you start introducing DLC costumes designed by the fans or designed by famous artists, or weapon camos where the weapons make sound effects from different games in your catalog and shit. Maybe a guest character or a reskinning or a character themed after another character from a different franchise. That's the only thing that should happen after the first week of Devil May Cry. Do not put a metric shit ton of extortive and exploitative microtransactions in this franchise. It does not need it, and you will not be able to manage keeping your audience if you do. Because I can tell you right now, Devil May Cry is one of those franchises that inspires game developers to try and make combat games. It inspires developers. Yeah. So eventually, they're going to create their replacement. The only reason we're getting a new Jet Set Radio game is because Bomber Cyberpunk finally came out. Remember, we knew about Bomber Cyberpunk 3 years before it dropped. First off, I think it's a shitty idea to drop a trailer 3 years before your game is finished. But I can understand it, especially if you're independent. You don't know how long it's going to take you. But honestly, and I do mean this, if Capcom, do not exploit the Devil May Cry franchise and fill it with microtransactions. Because if you do, eventually someone's going to show up and overtake you. And it's not going to take that long, because Devil May Cry is not new. Devil May Cry has been around for 24 years. Most people who first played Devil May Cry are in their 30s and they're in their early 40s. That means they got the time or the money to fund or go find different franchises that can create different games and different developers who want a piece of that pie that you essentially stepped on. Don't break your fans' heart. That's the best way I can put it. Don't break the fans' hearts. You already getting too dangerously comfortable with microtransactions in Devil May Cry 5, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Like,
it's not just, you're right.
Yeah, people literally made YouTube videos devoted to telling people, hey, look, they went in and added this shit after the game came out. So you're not going to get away with it.
Like, Devil May Cry is generally just like a, I don't know if pioneering is the right word, but like they pushed the hack and slash game forward. We all know Onimusha came first, but man, Devil May Cry was so fucking influential.
And Onimusha didn't evolve in the same direction. Because you got to remember, Kamiya wasn't the only person in Capcom who could make games like that, and he never was. The other guy went on to do Genji, which didn't even sell well, but Onimusha and Chaos Legion are basically still action games. Well, Onimusha has that more serious and horror-themed aesthetic in feudal Japan. Yeah, but still, these games were epic. And I don't know, have you played or did you beat Chaos Legion?
No, not really. But my friend talks about it a lot.
Let me tell you about it, man. I don't know if you have the game, but if you don't, hey, I'll get it for you. Play that on your streams. Play that on your YouTube. Do videos on it. You're going to get some new fans.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but seriously, like, they have had multiple formats of action games from their inception as a gaming company, and to this day, the only one that's even gotten past a third game is Devil May Cry. Final Fight stopped at 3. There's supposedly a new one coming, but Final Fight stopped at 3. So realistically, there's no reason for them to try to do that stuff, because you're going to give free money to somebody who used to love and respect you. Don't do it. Just don't. But yeah, that's pretty much it. With that being said, right Dad, why don't you tell the audience where they can find you again?
Thank you, first of all, very much for having me here, and I'm really, really sorry again for the inconvenience near the start, where my OBS went to shit and started just
it's all good,
not
bro.
recording.
Shit happens.
So it's a good thing, at least my audio made it through with this second recording. Now, I am on Extreme GamePlays as a my YouTube channel is called Extreme GamePlays. There's no space between the extreme and the gameplays. You can find my combat guides, you can find my entertaining videos, you can find my comparison videos about God of War and other action games. I recently made a Devil May Cry video that kind of introduced me to Mr. Zax right here, that I've had a wonderful conversation with throughout this entirety of the video. You can find me there. On Twitter, I'm Extreme Gameplays 1 as number 1 at the very end of it. I share some shit posts and whatnot, and that's about all you want to know about me. I stream challenge runs mostly nowadays, as I don't really have time for content creation all the time. That's about it. Thank you very, very much for having me, Mr. Zax. Again, thank you. Very interesting conversation.
Okay, we'll be sure to make sure that there's links to his channels and whatnot. And, maybe, hopefully one day you'll invite me on your channel after you finish Chaos Legion, or when we see a Devil May Cry 6 trailer. Who knows?
Chaos Legion. That is in my backlog. Very, very interesting game.
Yeah. So, but with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this recording, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.